Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my final episode of Burhan and the Boy. My name is Michael Burhan, of course. And before I introduce, my co-host Dave, of course, and our guest host, I want to
We have a
basically,
guest, people. We have a guest.
I just want to talk a little bit about something quickly, and just dedicate tonight's episode to Mr. Satoru Iwata, the head of Nintendo. It's been a
Cool.
few days after his passing, so what we're going to do is we're not going to monetize this video for him. If everyone wants to, they can talk candidly about their favorite Nintendo moments and loads of other stuff. So it's going to be a kind of a positive episode. No mourning, of course. Probably some tears, but let's hope you join us. Excuse me. And I want each and every one of you to kind of join us, not just to celebrate everything Iwata has done, but also
Don't mourn his death. Celebrate his life.
exactly. But also, discuss other stuff and other bits and pieces as well, because it's going to be a fun one and it's going to be a very enjoyable one. And tonight, of
It'll be
course,
the
you have,
final one. I'm a little bit upset about this.
yeah, of course, and you've got my co-host, Mr. Dave Wade, on the show.
Hello.
Dave is extremely, extremely awesome, of course. And we have with us, because she wasn't on I Got Gameplay and she got a bit sad.
Where's my bloody hat, Jamie? Sorry.
Because she wasn't on I Got Gameplay this week, she's going to be on tonight's Burhan and the Boy with us. She is the lovely, the effervescent, and also she swears like a sailor. She's the lovely Miss Jamie Styles. Jamie.
Hello.
And so, what we're going to do, I want to just
What,
quickly.
what you're going to do is ask her where my bloody hat is.
Well, not just
I
that.
don't knit.
I want to talk about the first
Learn!
time. I want to talk about the first time I met Jamie. It was a funny thing, and I talked a little bit about this on I Got Gameplay. And I first met Jamie when I was on Twitter. I was answering a few tweets, sending out a few tweets, and then I saw this girl just sit there and just get into a weird conversation with someone. I saw a tweet that she sent out, and it was like, hey, she's a cosplayer. And at the time, we lost Samantha Jennings from I Got Gameplay. Sam's doing very, very well working on her Twitch, streams and stuff, and she's working full time, basically at GameStop, I believe, as one of the GameStop managers, and we needed someone to kind of fill that role. And as soon as I found her, I was like, "Hey, would you like to?" I sent her a little message, followed her, and said, "Hey, would you like to join us for the show? It's called I Got Gameplay. It's a gaming podcast. We really are looking for a female host. Would you like to join us?" And then the first thing she messaged me back was, "Hey, I
Don't
need to
hit on
find."
me, you creepy
No,
bastard.
she's like, "I need to find out if this is real because I just need to check." And I was like, I gave her
Well,
her
okay.
details.
Really?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
when you've been into like modeling and stuff, and you've had quote quote contractors talk to you, quote quote, you kind of need to learn to fact check your shit. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna make sure this is real, and then I'm not getting into something like this guy just thinks I'm attractive, and then it's just gonna get awkward. So, but he's real and he's nice, and here I am.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't mind stuff like that. I always believe in full transparency. I will tell you everything. If you want to ask me when I was born, if you want to ask me my first sexual experiences, I will tell you everything. I share too much that my kids actually blush half the time. And
What was your first sexual experience?
me at the age of 17, and it was with a woman who I found out used me to cheat on her boyfriend. She
Well, at
was an
least
older
you
woman,
got some.
very lovely. Yeah, but I was young, and I found out basically when I was giving her roses, which was fun, and then ended up punching him in the face, which didn't hurt him because I was a little sprawn, like I was a spry lad. I was very. I had a 21-inch waist. That's how small I was. So yeah,
I still have.
and yeah, but I was very, very skinny. Ended up trying to do damage to somebody who basically didn't feel it was fun. But I learned my lesson. I did learn my lesson. It was fun. It was one of those situations where you
Well,
kind
a
of don't
lesson
know.
learned is a lesson gained.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with my penis as well, which was fun. Which was the funny thing about it. It was, yeah. Do you know if anyone's ever had that first time, you always end up being really shit, but then you get better. So that helps.
I can't believe we went there, but
My
since
advice.
we went there, I'm going to go there as well, which is, I think, my first time was, hey, this is really warm. Ah.
Yeah, and also my advice is loads of porn. That does help. Uh, because you get to pick a few things up. As long as you use it as a marital aid, it's one of those things that you can share the experience and say, hey, look at this, look what I'm doing.
Alan's
How am I
dog's
doing
dead.
this?
Alan's dog. No, no.
This is the penis, sir. But yeah, it's one of those things. When people say to me about full transparency of anything, I will tell you the truth, and I'm very shockingly truthful for those who've actually seen my YouTube channel.
Yeah, too much for your own good sometimes.
Yeah. I lost what? Today was a record for me. I lost 6 subscribers, gained 7, so kind of broke even. Hey,
Hey-ya!
It's
Sorry,
funny,
dude.
but I'm never
Johnny
gonna.
Carson.
I'm never gonna silence myself. I get that from my mum, Dave. You met my mum today. I actually get.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Bern's mum. She's lovely and wonderful.
The fact that I always voice my
she's
opinion.
She's going to cook me food.
She is when he comes over, but I have to be there with him, otherwise she won't let him through the door. It's a rule.
I'm not a terrorist.
No, but just say at one point she did let a registered pedophile in the house because he was a friend of mine.
Yeah, but Bern, in my defense, when it comes to meeting people's parents, I am super polite. I got all the fucking code and shit down.
Code? What code for meeting parents? Do you come in and go, yo?
You don't swear in front of them. You wipe your feet when you step over the threshold. And in fact, you're a vampire, and you ask them to invite you in.
Oh, are we talking fright night, Dave? We are kind of talking fright night.
No, we're talking manners, mate. Manners.
So,
seriously.
Let's let our guest speak. Jamie, if you want to, you can talk us about your first time. If not,
no, don't ask Burhan, you never ask a lady that.
It's something that
I don't fucking care.
Okay. Well, was that it? Did you just do it and then you went, I don't fucking care?
Are you talking about me saying, Burn, you don't care? Or are you talking about your first experience, which is I don't fucking care?
It was what it was.
Yeah. I just laid back and thought of England.
I've never actually done the thing. Like, I'm asexual, so I don't want to. I don't feel the need to.
Do penises scare you?
Yes, they do.
Oh my god, you're winning grace.
Yes.
Pretty much, yes. I lean more in a, I guess, attraction toward females. But I have no interest in sleeping with anybody. So, I just more.
Carry on more so about this attraction to females.
So I'm. So
that was a bad joke. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
That's Dave's just sitting there going, "I am intrigued."
I
go forth, my wayward son.
I'm a cuddler. I like cuddles.
Thingy.
And I don't care.
I'm with you on that.
I'm more of a cuddler, and I'm more of a. I would rather.
But apparently, she's not a knitter, and she won't make me a fucking hat.
Yeah, I don't knit. I've tried to learn how to crochet and how to knit, and I have no time for that. That is too difficult. No time to learn how to knit. Sorry, bro.
I'm really upset now. I'm going to cry. Big tears. In fact, to make sure I really cry, I'm going to watch fucking Apollo 13 and Forrest Gump back to back.
Why would you do that?
You could, and it might blend into the same movie. It would probably end up being Apollo Gump.
Hey, true story, by the way. Patty sent me this. I have a coin from the NASA Space Center that is actually built out of the side of Apollo 11.
Ooh.
And
oh wow!
And everyone looks at me and laughs and goes like, "What the fuck? You're so nerdy." I'm like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? This is the coolest thing in the world."
They see me rolling. They're hating. Can you see I'm white and nerdy?
People seem to forget that when Apollo 11 mission happened and they landed on the moon, what was it? 3/4 of the globe watched it.
Yeah.
And I'm really upset. Well, I'm not, because even though I complain about being old, I don't want to be any older. But oh my god, that must have been amazing watching the moon landing.
I know, right? That would have been fucking awesome. I've been a space nerd like my entire life.
Sammy for the entire thing. Oh, sexy times at NASA High.
It would have been amazing.
And I've also got a snow globe from NASA Kennedy Space Center, and I'm NASA. Can I address this with you? Which is when I flip it upside down and I turn it back up, right? And the stars fall across the shuttle, and I'm really upset that they retired the shuttle because I thought it was amazing. Yeah, when I turn it upside down, like really, you couldn't afford more than 15 stars.
Oh,
You cheap bastards.
real talk. Oh dear.
But it's still cool because it's got the shuttle in it, and I love the shuttle. And sometimes I watch Armageddon and pretend I was Bruce Willis.
That music video always scares me. The fact that Steven Tyler's like in the image where Bruce Willis is supposed to be, and Liv Tyler's putting her hand up to the monitor and like
one change thing.
Because Bruce Willis actually looks like he's dying. Steven Tyler looks like he's having an orgasm. So having your daughter put her
Is it
hand
just
up to
me?
scream
Does Bruce
while
Willis
you're having an orgasm doesn't really work. Just saying.
That's so weird. Why?
Oh, no, don't even get me started. Remember the song they did called Crazy? Crazy, crazy, crazy for you, baby.
I love that fucking video.
Yeah, but his daughter was one of the strippers in it.
Daughter.
Yeah, his daughter. You know what I mean? His daughter was one of the strippers in it. So, again, it's kind of creepy.
That's a bit awkward.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is. I didn't realise that. Now my brain's scanning back and thinking.
It's one of the first videos that Liv Tyler's actually ever did. It was her and who was the girl from Clueless?
The bird from Batman and Robin.
Who didn't
Clueless. What's the fucking name?
Who didn't have bat nipples? What was her name?
Fuck. What's her name?
Alfred Pennyworth's daughter, who suddenly sounded American, even though she was in British boarding school.
Is she I can't remember.
Oh shit! What's her
I
name?
had such a crush on her. Hold on, I'll look it up.
See, Jamie is going to be our resident look-up person tonight. She'll have access to Wikipedia and everything while me and Dave talk.
Bollocks! What's her name?
What I want to do, guys, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to do a video about this probably, and I want to talk to you guys about because I've recently left my flat today, so I emptied out all my books. So I've got all my books, and I've also got stuff that I'm giving away to Dave. Two of the things, because Dave is a wrestling fan, I have two signed, framed wrestling photos here.
Oh, dude, don't give me that.
That I got from Florida and are not worth shit. From WCW. We got Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Bill Goldberg, and they both still have their certificate of authenticity. And they're both for signed events, memorabilia. We have it. You want it. And it's from 416 Pineview Street, Alamance Springs, Florida. It's when I went to my trip to Florida. You're not getting both, Dave. You're getting one of them. So you get to choose Bill Goldberg or Hulk Hogan.
I've got to go with the Hulkmaster, haven't I?
You know something, brother. Yep. It's and it's got a Hulk Hogan plaque. So that's going to Dave. Now,
dude, you don't have to, by the way.
Oh, dude, really trust me. If it clutters my mum's house, she's going to kill me. Now we have some comic books. These are framed comics that I have. One of them I've got to fix the frame from because the frame looks fucked. The second one is kind of alright. The first one I've got is Stan Lee's Batman. You heard it right. Stan Lee, when he was released from his Marvel agreement.
Stan Lee's Batman. Is that the
drawn by Joe Kubert?
Is that the amalgamation thing they did in the 90s? No,
it's from DC's Just Imagine series. It's with Joe Kubert creating Batman. Stan Lee did a series called Just Imagine. He did a load of different comics, including Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, you name it. He did his own variations of them. They were shit, not gonna lie. But it was actually kind of funny. Batman was black, and he pretended he went into the house and he earned all this money, and he became he got out of prison, became a financial wizard somehow. And then said to his old butler, "Yo, man, this house is going to be your house." And this literally what he says.
No, my house, bitch.
It's your house. This is your house, bitch. You're going to tell him because no one's going to understand a black man who's going to be rich. This was literally what he said in the comic verbatim. So I've got that. That's not going anywhere because that's going to my collection.
I've got. If you can sell any of this shit to fund your European trip.
I can't because I've tried, and they're not worth much. So I'm going to keep them. Aphrodite 9 by Image. It's their black and white classic series. So that's the second frame. And the third frame, which is broken, is Extreme X-Men #1. Another book, if you love Red Dwarf, you will love this one by Doug Naylor, Last Human.
Got it. Sorry.
Another book I read called So You Want to Be a Playwright by Tim Fountain. Rob Grant's Backwards.
You're very well read, by the way, Burhan. You're very well read.
Of course I'm very well read. I'm very well articulated as well. That's the reason why I articulate myself.
And yet you're so humble.
Eugene Ionesco's Rhinoceros, translated by Martin Crimp. I've got 2 copies of this. I might give you 1 copy of it. It's a really good book. It's basically what if the zombie apocalypse happened,
Is it a really big fish?
It's a really big fish. It's instead of everyone turning into zombies, they turn into rhinoceroses. And it happens in France. It's a really good book. I went and saw the play, and and it happened at the Royal Court. So you know what, Jamie?
It's going to happen in France.
I'm going to send it to you instead. You're going to get this.
Fuck you, Burhan. Sorry.
I've got 2 copies, Dave. I'll give you one. And what they did at the Royal Court, instead of basically buying a transcript of the play, you could buy a book and read along, which is what I did. Because I'm all supportive new writing. Cool. Yeah, I support new writing. I think it's a good way of kind of working with the artists. Another thing, a lot of this stuff I got from drama school, and you're on In Your Face Theatre by Alex Sears. It's basically about British theatre and the explosion of provocative plays by the brat pack of 20-somethings, Generation X of new writers, whose debuts startle critics' audiences in their heady mix of sex, violence, and street poetry. This shows you that theatre can be anything. It's just things that are performative. If you go into a space and you do something, it's considered theatre. And In Your Face theatre is theatre that...
In your face, Charlie Murphy, in your face.
It's kind of like, you know when people always used to say 90s tood? In Your Face theatre is like 90s tood. It's you performing stuff that's blatant. It's in front of you. You don't pull any punches. There's no subtext. This is what it is. So it was a great book to read. The Voice and the Actor by Cicely Berry. It's basically forwarded by Peter Brook, for those who don't know. It's about the whole expression of inner life. So it's about using your voice, vocalizing, and showing you how to enunciate and how to create characters, darling.
And too many people these days don't enunciate properly.
Yeah, and Cicely Berry, she basically is a student of another gentleman by the name of Stanislavski, who, if you own the Stanislavski toolkit, you will know what I'm talking about. So then we've got Understanding Media, the Inside of the Celebrity. So it talks about the celebrity and the inversions of these characters, how we see celebrities and how celebrities see themselves. It's a really good book, and I used it as a way for me to actually write an experience about the celebrity in themselves. Basically, as a way, when I was doing my dissertation, I was doing a dissertation about being celebrity, performative, and I wrote a play called Dear John as part of that dissertation, talking about a man who gave everything just to be famous. You know, it got
Alicia Silverstone. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Alicia Silverstone.
I already looked it up, but I didn't want to interrupt anyone's thing.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking through my head, and I had to remember it because otherwise my brain would go to sleep not being able to remember the actress's name. But yeah, Alicia Silverstone. Back when she was hot.
Still hot.
In fact, does she do anything these days?
Not much, just TV, I think. I think that's what she does.
I would have banged her in Batman.
By the way, I showed this in a video that I did called The Rational Optimist. So it's basically we're wealthier, happier, kinder, cleaner, more peaceful, more equal, more longer lived than any previous generation, thanks to a unique human habits in exchange of specialization of our species, has found innovative solutions. For every obstacle I've faced so far, The Rational Optimist is by acclaimed science writer Matt Ridley, comprehensive refutes the doom-mongers of our time and reaches back into the past to give rational explanation for why we can and why we will. So there you go, guys. So tell me, Dave, what is the one book that you read that's kind of your go-to book?
See, I don't read. I don't want to sound like an ignorant.
Young Kippur.
I'm not massively read. Is that that's not the descriptive term, but there's one book that
you are not well read, sir.
And every time I fly, it's the book I read, and it's Wise Guys by Nicholas Pileggi, which is what Goodfellas was based on.
Ah, I love Goodfellas. Especially how Joe Pesci, the guy who's like the butt of everyone's jokes, turns to be a fucking monster.
Well, the great thing about the book is you actually get to hear, and it's the coolest thing about it is you get to, well, it's not cool because the guy was a violent, mobster trainee. Um, his childhood that they do a little bit of in the movie, then skip over the rest. In the book, it's funny. You get all of it, and it's just like, and I'll openly put my hand up and just say, "Fuck me sideways" and call me Susan. That would have been fucking awesome if I grew up as that. Stuff like when he just got like a part-time job with this place that turned out to be all the mobsters,
Yeah.
and it's just it's like people stopped parking in front of his parents' house or in his drive, which was a problem because they feared the mobsters, and it's just little touches like that. It was so good, and I did actually remember when I read it for the first time, having watched the movie first, which is, well, the book's always better, but second of all, I'm not justifying the horrible things you did when you grew up to be an adult, but fuck me, your life as a kid was amazing.
I think it's also justification as well. That's another thing they think about when things catch up with people. They will sit there and go, I was forced to do this, or I did this because I had to. They never understand that
he's back in prison now, isn't he? Because of tax evasion or something.
Yeah, and it's all about consequences in a sense. Speaking of consequences, 50 Cent, ladies and gentlemen, filed for bankruptcy. Man who was worth 150 million.
Yeah.
Filed for bankruptcy.
Here's the thing I don't get right. Well, I do because fame and shit goes to your head. He was worth $150 million.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go from that to owing $10 million to debtors?
Shooting shitty music videos, purchasing loads of jewels and stuff for himself, and trying to finance a failing film career.
Pretty much, but still, seriously, someone should have just given him a good fucking accountant.
They probably did, and then he fired him because the guy wouldn't let him spend his money.
Because I know better than you, bitch.
So, Jamie, have you heard about the 50 Cent thing?
I do, and I don't care.
Good answer.
She don't care.
I don't care. I like some of. I have like I think I have like one or two of his songs, but they're not his. They're like songs that he's like popped up in. I don't even know. Was he in? I don't know. I have like a few songs that he's like popped up in.
2 of his albums, and then I stopped buying his albums. Like I got the first one, which was the Get Rich or Die Trying album, which spawned from the Power of the Dollar. That's the original album that got.
And there was a game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bulletproof and Blood in the Sand. Apparently, Blood in the Sand's actually the better one of the two.
Well, if I go on a slight little tangent, because apparently, I'm not allowed to have this opinion because I'm a skinny white guy, but there's 2 hip hop albums that I absolutely love and adore, and they're from my childhood, well, my mid-teens. I think are brilliant, and I think the problem with hip hop right now is they should go back to that kind of standard of quality of music. And curious what yours are. Mine are The Chronic by Dre.
I love that album. One of my favorites.
And The Predator by Ice Cube.
Haven't heard that one.
Oh, check it out. Just for the song Today Was a Good Day.
2 of my favourites have to be, like my all time, is actually 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. I love that album because every track on the album is solid. It's produced by Dr. Dre and Eminem. And the majority of tracks are actually recycled from an old album that he did. The other one for me, there's quite a few because there's a few artists that I like, but the top 2 that I tend to listen to a lot, I love Eminem Recovery, and the reason why I like it is because he transitioned from being just a guy spouting rhymes about poo-poos and stuff like that to being.
I love the Slim Shady EP.
Yeah, but he transitioned to being more of a conscious rapper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And a storyteller, and he's always been an avid storyteller. But when he tried to come back and did Relapse, it was terrible because it showed lack of growth and lack of progression. And when he did Recovery, it showed a lot more progression. He did the Marshall Mathers 2 album, which I I thought was okay, but it wasn't as great as Recovery. I felt like, in terms of him, in order for him to grow as an artist, he needs to keep developing. And I think the one thing that 50 Cent, I think one of the reasons 50 Cent kind of failed, fell flat on his face, was because he never progressed. He kept trying to, live up to like a name and a hype, instead of trying to actually be a better wordsmith, because he's talented. I'll give him that. He is talented, but he never showed that talent off, which is a shame. But there has been rumors.
The gravy train.
Yeah, and there's rumors spawning about at the moment saying that he's actually not broke and he's filing for bankruptcy protection in order to stop this. The woman that sued him for claiming the $10 million that he owes. If I was you, 50, I would really just sort my life out. Anyway, let's go from that and let's talk a little bit about my Jamie, your favourite book. What's the book that you read the most?
I read like one or two books a lot. I'm very well read. I really enjoy.
Based on your train story, it's going to be Harry Potter, isn't it?
No, I studied Egyptology and astrology since I was 6 years old, and I read every single book in my local library about those subjects by the time I was 9 years old. And my favorite books, I would have to say that I go to read, that I just go back and I'll read. I love Black Beauty. I go back and I read that one a lot. I also go back and I read Dr. Jan Garavalia's How Not to Die. She is she's a medical examiner, and she tells these stories of the mysteries she's had to solve, going through and doing autopsies on people to help their family.
Yeah.
And so she'll go through and she'll tell, like, there was somebody who was supposedly murdered, and she'll go through and she'll tell how she went through finding out if it was a homicide, if it was a suicide, if it was just a freak accident. And I've read that book probably about 3 times now.
Nice.
And I just love the mystery behind it all. I love hearing about the medical things. I also have like a college grade Greek mythology book and a college grade like medical book that I go through and I read, just because I love learning things. I love it so much. If we're talking like a kind of like a luxury read, I've been going through and like reading Anne Rice's novels, and I'm still stuck on the vampire Lestat. Like, it's right after he's changed and he's really, really fucking whiny.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I know you're gonna get better, but Jesus
he totally
Christ.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, he's basically like a teenager going through puberty.
Right.
It's hilarious. He's so rebellious as well.
I know. I'm like, gee, I love Lestat, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ. My favorite is Armand, though. So I'm like, I really want to see when you meet Armand and like totally fall for him, because it's so cute. You guys help each other and it's great.
Yeah, and that's the thing where I think the Queen of the Damned film failed, because we never bridged the gap.
I'm a rock star.
But it basically never bridged the gap between the Interview with a Vampire and the Vampire Lestat, because I love the fact that Vampire Lestat's like, yeah, I remember, Louis was whining about that shit, but actually that's not how it happened. I'm kind of a relaxed guy. And it's funny just looking at the first person perspective from it, because he sits there and narrates himself and he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I kind of did this shit to kind of piss everybody else off. Because, I was bored. And you sit there and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But, my fascination, I have a fascination with immortality. I've got this morbid kind of fascination with seeing everything around me like move forward and me staying the same. Does that make sense?
Right.
But that's where I got it from, and I love the vampire series. I love Interview with a Vampire. I love the Vampire Lestat. Love Queen of the Damned.
Who's your favorite vampire in the series?
Oh, Lestat.
Oh, come on!
He is hilarious!
I know, besides Lestat, though. Everyone's favorite is Lestat, besides Lestat.
He is an absolute arsehole. Louis as well, but Louis
Ew! God, no!
Louis is because his obsession. He's like a jilted ex-boyfriend.
He is! It's so terrible!
And it's hilarious because he like, all that emo shit that you've seen in Twilight, that's where you get it from. Louis
Exactly.
is that. He basically was emo before Twilight, and
I
it's
can't,
funny
like-
because he sits there and he's like, you know, we're all staying in the same room, and he would always tell me that things were going to be okay, and he touched my face.
I know
And
it's so. Oh, I think
Yeah.
one of the coolest things that like I'm looking forward to is because I'm so small and I have like this really round face. I'm going to cosplay Claudia.
Ooh.
And I'm going to walk around and I can do like the creepy little girl voice, and I'm so happy that I'm just going to get to walk around and just pull off like I'm going to do like a few of like the movie dresses because I love their style in the movie. And I just walk around and just pull the whole like creepy girl like Kirsten Dunst just never in the house. Just like cute little creepy girl things would be great.
God, I love the bit when she gets turned and she's like, I want some more.
I want some more. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, demon child.
Hey guys, Magus here.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got
Hey.
Magus here with us on my final episode of Burhan and the Boy. So Magus, how you doing today, dude?
Not a whole lot. Just chilling. Got some graphic novels, yo. Is the show live or what?
We're basically doing pre-record and it's going to go live after. Just wondering, your favourite book. What's your favourite book to read? We're talking about the Vampire Chronicles, which Jamie hit a great point. It's one of my... The Vampire Chronicles, I think, is vampires for grown-ups.
Oh, the Anne Rice books.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Fuck.
None of this Christian Grey bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. We read real men who are vampires and real vampire drama and bullshit. That's what Anne Rice does.
Let's see.
She also hates her fans, hates cosplay, and hates fan art. So
And
congratulations.
and then she sometimes loves religion, and then hates religion, and then sometimes loves religion.
Yeah, she did like that
Yeah.
Jesus series, didn't she? And
Yep.
that didn't, and because the fans didn't take to it, she got really pissy about it.
And then she became an atheist again,
Yeah,
like just overnight. It's weird.
I think
I don't-
atheist because money was involved. Yeah, I'm an atheist now. Let's write some more vampire books.
And then she'll want to write about Jesus again.
Yeah, she wrote loads of erotic novels as well under a different pen name. People don't know that. The reason why she was
And
so
they
good.
suck.
Yeah, the reason why she was so good at like expressiveness. Like you would see in the Vampire Chronicles, most of the vampires they're very
The gay sex
pansexual.
moments?
Well, they're very pansexual in a sense because they love each other.
Right.
You know,
And
you have. Yeah, go on.
The funny thing about it is I read like the Vampire Bond, which has some of the dirtiest stuff in I think in the series because of Marius. And so I read that, was completely blown away, was completely scarred by page 52. I don't know like if you know what goes on page 52, but I was scarred for life. And so we found some of her erotic novels in a bookstore, and we start looking through them, and the sex sucks. It's worse than in the vampire books. The vampire books is better than her erotic novels.
I think it's because of the expressiveness as well of the vampire stuff. Because the vampire
Right.
stuff, it's all about basically. It's like they're not actually like. Well, I'm going to say fucking, but they're very much in love with one another. You know, they'll turn someone if they love them, if they love
Right,
their
it's
look.
more about like the contact than
Yeah.
it is the final result.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so now that I think about it, this is a weird opinion. Interview with the Vampire is a good book, don't get me wrong.
Great.
But I think from Vampire Lestat to Memnoch, that's her best, that's it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
yeah.
I like Queen of the Damned is where it all kind of culminated, in a sense. She kind of dragged the story on a lot further than it did. Even to the fact when he drained the blood of Christ, didn't he?
That was in
Yeah.
Memnoch.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say that was in Memnoch.
Because
So-
God's portrayed as a dick in Memnoch.
Oh God, Anne Rice, what you like? But
And that's when she was a Catholic, which is really weird. Because the God in Memnoch is a dickhole.
you're a woman? Fuck you. But the funny thing about it as well is, I don't understand why no one's actually gone to adapt the series into a series of films again, because I think that would have been great, especially like in Twilight's heyday. Did you think it was more due to her saying no?
Yes, I think it was due to her saying no because she fucking hates everything. She's a bitch.
Everything
That's
is terrible.
No, you don't understand. She's actually like flat out almost sued fans because of fan fiction.
Seriously.
Yes, she has also done the same thing and bitched about people cosplaying. She thinks that people are stealing her character and she doesn't approve of it. She will flat out bitch you out and find you if you do cosplay. If you do, I'm pushing it. We're pushing it, cosplaying Armand and Lestat and putting our photos out there. Like, she does not. She hates cosplay. She hates fan fiction, and she's tried to sue because before. She hates fan art. And she's just a fucking bitch. And I think that the reason that they haven't gone back and made more movies is, number one, because Queen of the Damned murdered 99.9% of Vampire Chronicles fans. And because she said no. I fully believe that. I believe that that we would love another movie. I would love to see Armand done right. I mean, he hasn't been done right in a single fucking movie. But I don't think it's ever going to happen because she's such a fucking bitch about it.
Yeah, the problem is, I think, when it comes to what Anne Rice does, she like teeter-totters. She goes from one direction to another. She does a full 180. One minute she was all for making more movies, getting things done. Next minute she's not. One minute she hates her work. Next minute she wants to do Jesus. And then another minute she doesn't do Jesus. One minute she adds the witches into the Vampire Chronicles. Next minute she says no, it's not part of that. It's not canon. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of,
yeah.
She's very. I think bipolar is probably the word for it.
Finicky.
Yep.
Like we talked about. One minute she's a fucking atheist. One minute she's a religious person. Next minute she's an atheist. Next she's a Christian person advocating, fucking religion. And then even at one point she was all hardcore into like all the fucking, the seances. Remember when that shit was big early?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She was all big into that shit. But what the fuck happened? Oh, now I'm a fucking atheist.
I went to a Wiccan festival once. It was fun. Someone actually spiked my tea with acid. And
dear God.
I saw colours, and I kept trying to get someone to reassure me that pillow spider wasn't going to kill me. Yeah. Fun times.
Apparently, there was like one time that I stayed up for over 24 hours, and it was like really, really stressful. It was like when we were homeless, and we went to Walmart to kind of like stay the night, not to sleep there, but just to like be inside somewhere. And so like we went in Walmart, and we like sat down in one of the aisles because like no one was fucking at Walmart because it was like freaking like 5 a.m. And apparently, I had reached that point of sleepiness where I was just like fucking out of it. And we sat in like the shoe place, like they had those benches in there because my legs were giving out. And I look up and I thought that the PlayStation symbol, like they had like the X square, triangle, and circle buttons. I thought that they were coming after me, and I kept asking people if they were okay. And then we went and we sat down in the pillow aisle, and I don't remember any of this, by the way. This is just from like people's accounts of what happened. Apparently, I found a round pillow and thought it was a donut, and people got me to lick it. And then apparently, I found a clock that was it looked like a tire, but I kept calling it a snowflake. I don't remember anything about it.
So you were basically mental.
Yes, but I was just really tired.
I've been there. I've had one time where I stayed up for 4 days, and yeah, it wasn't pretty.
After 72 hours, you start micro napping.
Yeah, I was going in and out of apparently I was going in and out of comas, because I was like literally sitting there, looking at the screen and just going, and then I had a panther talk to me. It was a weird moment. People thought I was nuts.
That's cool. How was the pamphlet?
It was fun. Kept calling me a heathen. Anyway, Tony, you read a great deal of comic books, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 movies that have come out recently. Suicide Squad, Batman vs Superman.
Jesus Christ.
And also we've seen the trailer for Deadpool, even though Marvel doesn't want to actually confirm or deny that we've seen the trailer for Deadpool. Or should I say Fox does, because Marvel are just like, damn it, Hydra. If you see a trailer that Warner Brothers hasn't shown yet, they'll try and sue your ass. What did you think of them? Because I'm kind of like, with the Suicide Squad movie, I look at it and I'm like, meh. Whereas Batman vs Superman, I'm like, okay, I'm a bit more pumped for this because they've shown a bit more ingrained story. You can see that Batman was involved in Man of Steel in some way or another. I don't know how, because he's Bruce Wayne. He shouldn't be in the Metropolis, but hey. But there's kind of more character building in that. We got to see a lot more going on than we did in Suicide Squad, which just it seemed like they were trying to say, "Oh look, Harley Quinn's sexy. Oh look, the Joker's badass. Oh look, Deadshot is Will Smith because it's Will Smith playing Will Smith."
Well, let's be fair here, okay? Suicide Squad is technically still 13 months away. Okay, that is pretty far off for a trailer. That movie does not come out till August 2016.
Yeah.
So that trailer did what it was meant to do, right?
It's basically hyped the movie.
Yeah, hype the movie.
I'm still not happy with the Joker. I think he looks too cheesy.
Oh God, you probably Burhan, you've been in the Megas X1 group. You probably saw the debates I got my ass into.
Yeah.
Okay. Which we probably will. Let me preface this for those that don't know. I am a DC Comics fanboy. I'm not going to deny that fucking shit. I don't hate Marvel, but I am critical of their stuff, and I honestly find their movies overrated. That's just me. Okay.
I have to agree with you with Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron and Iron Man 3, which I wasn't a fan of. Oh, and also the Amazing Spider-Man series, which I think was rushed to hell.
I hated Age of Ultron, and I hated Iron Man 3.
Yeah, it's because they tried to... Like, Iron Man 3 felt to me like a James Bond movie, with the plot of The Incredibles ingrained.
Iron Man 3 was just embarrassing considering what they did to the poor...
The
Mandarin. They just fucking ruined him all over the fucking map.
I laughed at that. I felt it was funny if he was a different character. If he was a different character, if he was a different character, I thought that would have been funny. But I agree with you. I think the Mandarin, what they did to the Mandarin was kind of pathetic. Because they're like, well, the Mandarin's too stupid and too goofy. No, it isn't. You've got a guy in a fucking robot armor that blasts itself off into space with a guy with a fucking reactor in his chest.
Ecstatic about the Mandarin.
Yeah. Shane Black was like, oh, it's too goofy.
The Mandarin was, if you look at the best Mandarin stories,
Yeah.
were magic, because the Mandarin was a magic-based villain, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Magic
why.
versus
That's why he
science.
was different, because him versus Iron Man, who is a tech-based superhero, had to deal with something he had no control over.
Right.
If you want to get technical, do you know? I don't know. A lot of people know this, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, Iron Man villains should be grounded." Do you know a lot of key cosmic characters actually first appeared in Iron Man? In fact, Iron Man number 50 or 51, if I don't remember correctly, from the 1970s. I don't know the exact year. Was the first appearance of all villains fucking Thanos. Yeah. Thanos first appeared in an Iron Man comic.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't remember it because Iron Man wasn't popular back then. He was I would call him a B-list superhero. You know,
he was a B-lister until 2008.
Yeah, he was. Spider-Man was like the main guy of the Marvel Universe. Thor, I think, was kind of a main guy at the time. Captain America was a main guy. Tony Stark wasn't even in their blip. He wasn't even their radar. He was a secondary player in the Avengers. And now they're kind of putting him as the kind of pseudo-leader of the Avengers when it was always Cap. Cap was always the guy that led the Avengers.
Well, see, here's the fundamental difference between Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
When you think DC, what have you always thought every decade? Superman,
Justice
Batman,
League.
Wonder Woman, right?
Well, I would say the Justice League, because I'd Green Lantern in there as well.
But Green Lantern these days, but I mean consistently, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, right? The Trinity.
I wouldn't say Wonder Woman. She's fallen off a couple of times herself. I'd say Batman, Superman, Green Lantern. And that's just because Green Lantern, I've always felt, even though it has fallen off every now and then, it's still been really consistent, especially with Hal Jordan.
I would argue with that. I would say it's those three. But I would say Green Lantern would now, because of what Jeff Johns did with that run.
Oh, you know what, I'd say it's like Jeff Johns and Green Lantern was like having your favourite pizza with all your favourite foods topped on it.
Oh, that run is amazing. I own that entire run in graphic novels. And
Blackest Night is my favourite of the run. Rebirth. I loved Rebirth. I love the fact how he managed to actually sync all these characters into one thing. He expanded the universe. Now DC have kind of destroyed that.
And you know what he did too was Kyle Rayner was Hal Jordan's replacement, right?
Yeah, he became a secondary character when Hal initially came back.
Well, what he did brilliantly was a lot of people, when they knew Hal was coming back, the fear was, we're going to kill Kyle, and that's the easy thing to do, but he didn't do that.
No. The thing is, he made Kyle and the other Lantern's more relevant again. You know, the Green Lantern Corps, I love the fact that what he did with Jon Stewart. You know, the fact that Jon Stewart has his own story arcs in the series, the fact that he had this burden after killing what's the planet's name?
I know which one you're talking about. That.
You know, War of the Green Lanterns, when he killed what's his name? What the fuck's the planet's name? Remind me, guys. Then you had Guy Gardner, who they ended up making the leader of the Red Lanterns, which I liked, but it kind of flip-flopped. Once he left the series, they just they didn't know what to do with the Red Lanterns as a whole, because once they got rid of Atrocicus, it failed to become a redemption story for him, and became a story where Guy Gardner was leading the team, and then they disbanded the team, and now he's featured in the Green Lantern's Lost series.
Well, right now, Green Lantern's a pretty interesting book because it's written by a great underrated writer by Robert Venditti.
Yes, and I love the idea behind the special lantern weapon that Hal now carries. He's not a Green Lantern anymore. He doesn't hold a ring.
And he's a renegade.
Glove. Yeah.
He's an outlaw.
And the fact that now the lanterns have gone missing. No one knows where the fuck they are, you know. And that kind of bleeds into the Lanterns Lost series.
A lot of people don't like what Venditti did, but look, here's the thing. They wanted a rehash of what Jeff Johns did. What Jeff Johns did was he created this whole emotional spectrum and established it, right? Where and then it culminated into the Wrath of the First Lantern, which ended his run, which was basically someone comprised of all of these powers, abilities, right?
Yeah, because Jeff Johns has now gotten a lot more. He's big. He's a bigger player in DC now. They've put him onto Justice League, but he's also one of the main guys in terms of like configuring the stories of the universe.
Well, remember they announced that he is co-writing with Ben Affleck the Batman movie.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a fan of having Ben Affleck act and direct in the Batman movie. I think he needs to focus on his character development rather than focus on writing the script. But again, he's proven his chops. He can act and direct at the same time, but I'm not a fan. I think it becomes a vanity project when you do everything.
Right.
But we'll see what he can do. Maybe he'll do a great job. I don't know. I'm not as against him being Batman as everybody else is. And I think that kind of got laid to rest with the trailer. But at the same level, it's just, I don't know. You know.
Here's the thing how I view comics. I think I've explained this to you, Burhan.
Yeah.
I view comic book adaptations under two ways, okay? It's not... I know that you have to separate yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay? From the source material, which is fine. But I also use the source material as not a way to say how accurate it is, but to look at it and piece together. Because what a lot of people don't do, even those so-called purists, don't know is there's scenes that are ripped out from comics and taken from different comic books. I'll give you two key examples, okay? Man of Steel. And this is why maybe I appreciate the movie more so than some people do. There are two scenes that are ripped out from two separate Superman comics, right? Here's Tomorrow by Brian Azzarello, and Secret Origins, Superman Secret Origins by Jeff Johns. The scene that I'm talking about from the Azzarello comic is there's a scene in Man of Steel where Superman goes to a Catholic church and he speaks to a priest. And that scene is taken from scenes from Brian Azzarello's Here's Tomorrow. I think which he did with the great Jim Lee, because you can't argue Jim Lee's a badass artist. So
he is, but he's lazy.
Oh yeah,
he's totally lazy.
He's not lazy. Remember, he co-runs DC.
Yeah, but when he was doing his properties and Image, he ran Wild Force? I think it was called Wildstorm. And he was doing most of the drawings, but the comics would always get backdated because he would take his time to actually get any work done because he was the only artist on the bloody thing.
Well, not only that, but Wildstorm actually became so popular that it became a business. So he became a businessman at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the... Yeah.
But I think as an artist, he's lazy because he tends not... The thing is, he's so good, but that's when he wants to put the work in. It's the same with Joe Mangiura. Do you remember Joe Mangiura when he tried to basically juggle comics and doing other stuff? He got really lazy. He had his own series that came out, and he just went, and regressed to the point that it never even freaking finished. The story, the first initial story never finished.
Well, Jim Lee has gotten better about that because he'll only choose projects once every now and then now. Like when he did the New 52 Justice League, that was all brought out. He did the first 6 issues, and then I think he did the final, I think maybe 8 through 12, and he was done with that. And then he moved, with Scott Snyder, who's writing Batman right now, he moved on to, what the fuck was it? He moved on to Superman Unchained.
Yeah, that kind of failed because they handed it over to someone else and then it just ended.
Yeah, they finished that one, Superman Unchained, I haven't read it all, but I know it ended pretty well. And then he did something for Multiversity, and then that's it. That's all I know. I don't think he's doing anything right now because, again, they're
rebooting it again. Well, they didn't reboot. They allowed the universe to go back to the way it was.
Kind of. What they did was Convergence was basically undid all the reboots, so all of DC continuity, because DC has been more rebooted more times than you can count, right?
Yeah.
And I love DC more than Marvel, but DC has been rebooted multiple times. That every story that's ever happened...
They've always had a crisis at some point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But what this did was... basically validate every single story that has happened in DC history and said every story in DC history has happened. It's all continuity. Some of it's on, other planets, on other Earths. Some of it's, this and that. But they said all of it has happened. All the Earths that have ever existed in the DC multiverse has existed. So I'll give you an example. But we do have one main continuity, which is still the New 52 continuity. That's where a lot of the books are, but a lot of authors are going to branch out and do stories on other Earths with older continuity.
Yeah, it gives them... It's like the Superman that was previous, before the New 52 reboot. He's got a child now, doesn't he, with Lois?
Yeah, they're doing a whole series on that.
Yeah. And I like that idea. I love that. It reminds me, reminiscent of the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows series that's going on at the moment. I love the fact they've got a kid. Him and MJ are trying to protect this child, and it's going into a whole idea behind... him valuing his family over himself.
Oh,
him becoming like the last superhero in the universe because everybody else is been wiped out by this big threat who's now the ruler of the world. Looking for superpowered beings. It's a great series to check out, guys. If you want to check it out, it's one of my favorite Secret Wars series, aside from Ultimate End, which is currently going on at the moment, which is where it's got the people from Earth 616 and the Ultimate Universe, which is Earth 116, 1610 or something like that. Don't quote me on that.
It sounds like Secret Wars is doing what the original Crisis did, though.
Yeah. It's wiping everything out and it's starting again, because apparently there are people being killed off at the moment in Secret Wars that are going to return when the new main universe, when a new continuity happens.
Well, it's weird because when you think of the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's not a reboot in where everything restarted, but where certain things restarted, but certain things continued. I'll give you an example. Justice Society of America. The Justice Society of America, prior to Crisis on Infinite Earths, they were on Earth 2, right?
Yeah, there was Silver Aged.
Yeah, Golden Age.
Golden Age,
yeah, they were from the 40s.
Yeah.
So what happened was, when that happened, those characters survived their world getting destroyed, but the timeline merged. So instead of saying they were on another Earth, they were the heroes from the 40s in this new timeline.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like the guys that Superman and Batman looked up to. They were the first age of heroes, as opposed to being on another Earth.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what Marvel's doing is they're destroying the Ultimate Universe, but they're bringing elements like Miles Morales and things like that on there.
Yeah, because
they're extracting the best things from that universe, even though they kill it, into the mainstream because it's profitable, and it's like, don't do that, Marvel. Can I just throw a thread back to talking about DC and Green Lantern? Yeah, sorry, I'm a thick bastard.
I'm a bastard in general, so don't feel bad.
Oh, no, I'm a thick bastard. Oh, dude, trust me, I'm a thick bastard because I've been on mute for 15 minutes and I was like, no, it's listening to me. Oh, wait, my bad. Never mind.
I was wondering why you were quiet. I was like, Dave's normally quiet.
Do you remember, right, they've streamlined their universe right now, DC. I get that. They've streamlined it, and it's probably, and people might hate me for saying this, the most streamlined their universe has been for a long time, because they've always had this problem of multiple universes, and every now and then they have to have this big
It was a clusterfuck. But saying that, before they rebooted
how many
it,
times has DC had, looking back to the early 80s, a big fucking event where they have to like stream their universe down?
Well, I will point out though that by the time the Brightest Day happened, the universe was pretty streamlined.
No, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, oh my god, I sound like Vicky Pollard.
Not yet. Not yet.
No, you're right. But the biggest thing that happened in DC continuity that really shoved a rod up my ass and pissed me off was when they did 0 Hour.
Yeah, 0 Hour was 0 Hour.
They took Hal Jordan and they turned him into a villain, and then they apologized for it.
I loved it. I didn't
like it. I didn't like it. There's only one comic I love about it, which was when Batman met all his alter egos, and you got to see the Dark Knight Returns Batman.
The thing is, I like the reason why I liked Hal Jordan turning into a villain, turning into Parallax.
I fucking love that.
Because the thing about it was,
and I
felt it showed a different edge. It was a guy who was trying, to cope with what was going on in the universe at the time.
No. Do an onslaught like Marvel did.
But when Cyborg Superman destroyed Hal Jordan's home and his friends and his family, he went apeshit. And you would too. Imagine, Dave, right? Everybody in your hometown are dead and you're trying to bring them all back to life.
But it was just, I just felt, see, my heart lies with Marvel. I'm not going to lie. But with the whole 0 Hour thing, even though I was a DC fanboy at the time, it just felt like you just plucked something out of midair and just went, we'll make this bloke the bad guy. Even though there was, granted, Burhan, there was established events behind the character.
It wasn't just that. His star was waning at the time because the stories just got really boring. And this was at a time where they were doing stories about fucking drug use, for God's sake. Right? It was...
Well, technically, DC were the first people to do that. Way back in the day with
actually, correction. Marvel did that. Stanley did that story where Harry Osborn were all fucked up on drugs, and he was the first one to do the non-code one. But it was just in that story, the drugs were like they never explained; they were just drugs. But the first one to really tackle it in a more serious context was that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams story, where Speedy was hooked on heroin, and they actually acknowledge it being heroin as opposed to some just pills or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and let's not forget that also, even though it's not drugs, it's alcohol, which is the same thing, an addiction. That let's not forget what Marvel did, which was groundbreaking back in the day with obviously Stark being an alcoholic.
Demon in the Bottle.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite graphic novels ever. It's a very uncomfortable read, but it's a very good read. By the way, Jamie, you still here?
Yes. I don't want to interrupt anyone, so I just sit back.
Sorry, this
you can interrupt me all the time. I don't care.
Yeah, Jamie, jump in whenever you've got a thought.
This has turned into a boys' network right now.
No, really, it's turned into a comic book fan network, and I like the way this is going because in terms of being like a comic fan in a sense, but just to kind of end the whole thing about turning Hal into a villain, I thought it was the best thing that they did with Hal.
I didn't like it. I just
no,
thought
but
it was
because
cheap.
he was struggling to find his own identity, and you saw it in the comics. It was great, and then the end where
that's the problem, Burhan, which is you didn't see it in 0 Hour.
Yeah, but without that, you would never have seen Hal then like kind of changed and brought back by as we put it, Jeff Johns in the. And Green
you
Lantern
can all
Rebirth.
laugh at me and call me a pussy, but I'm sorry, Kyle Rayner's my favorite Green Lantern.
Okay, so what was your biggest problem with 0 Hour though?
It's what DC always did when they tried to address or reduce their universe, and it was too expansive, and it was just. You're focusing so much on tying all the events in, which was good. I like continuity, but I never felt they felt him out. They felt him out because he should call a cop and ask for rape advice. But I never felt that they filled him out as a character. is going corrupt in that. It was just like, I'm the bad guy. Now, I know what you're saying about his planet, but all that shit was delivered afterwards, apart from a few little tidbits in Zero Hour. So it was almost kind of like DC realized that they dropped the ball on that and they had to fill in his character afterwards. But when I bought Zero Hour, and I still have them all because, comic book.
You're a collector.
Yeah. But I never thought for 1 minute when they were actually doing the series, I never felt why he suddenly became corrupt. Having read, even though his most, dark and convoluted storylines in his own comic, going back, decades, I never felt that they fleshed out why he became corrupt. I just felt it was like, oh, we need a big character. Make this bloke corrupt. Oh, everyone's going to be fucking butthurt over this. And that was my biggest problem with it.
Well, let me explain a couple things. I do agree with you. I think of all the crises, because they always do some event every 10 years. I think of all the Crisis events that they did since 1985 with, Crisis on Infinite Earth, and they did Zero Hour.
By the way. I mean, I slag DC off, even though I am a fanboy of DC, but Crisis on Infinite Earth was my favorite, period.
Oh, it's still a masterpiece. It's the greatest superhero epic that's been ever told, to me. Because think about it. It's the one story that I've read in any superhero fiction that they took all heroes of the one universe and made them face one threat that could fuck them all up in the answer.
And it's structured.
Is that the one?
Problem.
Yes.
This is my problem with Zero Hour. Is structured. The problem with Zero Hour is they get too expansive and they kind of drop the ball and lose stuff by trying to make everything tie up, if that makes sense.
The problem with Zero Hour is, now I'm going to agree with you on Zero Hour, but I'm going to disagree with you because I'm on Burhan on one point. I'm going to agree with you because I don't think Zero Hour was a very good story in general. I think it was a poor attempt at trying to fix the timelines at the time. They had problems with Legion of Superheroes, that type of shit. Okay? But with Burhan, though, I will say that they did flesh out Hal becoming a villain in Emerald Twilight.
Yeah. They basically focused on the fact that he wanted to find that was missing, and it was his friends, it was the people that he lost that was missing for him, and the great thing about it was...
Burhan, don't leave the interwebs because we need to start a new series or podcast where we just talk comics with this bloke.
But the great thing about it was...
me, yeah, I'm down.
It really made Hal Jordan human. It was the first time, like Superman was always super. Batman was always the brooding Dark Knight and the detective who lacked emotion. Hal was always the humane character of the bunch. He was always the guy who had more of an emotive kind of characteristic, in a sense. He would always be the guy who wanted to conquer fear, but when he lost everybody, he had that mental breakdown. And when I read it, I was more empathetic with the character, and I liked him a lot more for it, because I sat there and thought, well, if that was me, I'd probably do the same thing. I'd go around killing everybody else because my friends and family are dead, and you did not fuck all to stop it.
I just, call me cheap, but and shallow, but I just didn't like the fact that they did a complete U-turn on his character, and they made him. I mean, I know he's seen a bunch of horrific shit, and he, could be angry about that, but I just felt that it was picked at random. We're going to do this event to, streamline our time streams. We need a bad guy. Hal Jordan, people like him. That's going to create a big stir. That's my biggest problem with it.
Well, it was also considered, too, that Green Lantern was not a top-selling book, so...
Well, it's because they merged it with Green Arrow, and then they tried to make it really topical. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it failed, because no one knew what to do with it.
Well, let's go back to something that was mentioned earlier, the problem with DC continuity, okay? DC continuity problems.
If you have to fix your continuity every 10 years, you have a problem.
Well, it's not only... let's be fair, though. Marvel has its share of problems, too.
It does.
Yeah, Marvel has a lot of problems.
And their obsession with trying to fucking kill Spider-Man.
Doing weird shit with Spider-Man. I
have to admit, though, I loved Superior Spider-Man. I felt like as a Watching Doc
The
Ock
greatest run on Spider-Man, Burhan, ever was Todd McFarlane's run.
No, but I will say Superior
I'll
Spider-Man
argue
was
that
very
with Roger
intriguing because of the way that Dan Slott set the story up. Because he ended up, at first, succeeding Peter Parker at being a better Spider-Man, and then Doc Ock's ego got in the way. I loved that. I love the fact that he ultimately failed because there was stuff that he wasn't seeing because he thought that everything was perfect.
Where do you stand on the Clone Saga?
I liked
don't
it, but I
even
felt
mention
it dragged. My favourite Spider-Man actually is Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. I loved him.
Oh, you puff.
But the problem is, my issue with Marvel, and my issue has always been with them, is they backpedal. They do it a lot. No one is ever going to be dead because they always backpedal when they do something, and then the fans get really pissed off about it. There's only one thing they haven't backpedaled on at the moment, which is Female 4, and eventually, the problem is she's suffering from cancer. There's nothing you can do. She's going to eventually die, right? And unless
That
she
and the
basically,
fact that she's a fucking feminazi.
yeah, that too. So you don't, there's no other way to go with her because she's been written really badly as well, which doesn't help. Because she's like, I'm a woman, I can do anything I want, and then suddenly every man is a fucking chauvinist in there, and there's no other way to go. The more interesting character in those books at the moment is Odin's son. You've made 4 interesting by giving another lead character who's less interesting the starring role, because Odin's son is trying to figure out his place now that he doesn't have his Mjolnir. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Do you know what I mean?
See, that's my problem with Marvel is they don't okay, let's go back to the Spider-Man thing. And they've always done this. They take Spider-Man, who you can have deep, complex stories, but then they make really weird stories. I'll give you several examples of those. Number 1, the Clone Saga, obviously.
Again, I think the Clone Saga after they established Ben Reilly as the main Spider-Man.
Greatest part of Spider-Man.
Then it just kind of went
history.
Then it went downhill.
Was when he was involved with Inferno. That was
absolutely
amazing.
I had no issue.
Inferno.
Issue.
Oh, okay.
I had no issue with the Clone Saga up until that point because I didn't mind the fact that they cloned him. I didn't mind that at all.
Technically, they cloned him back in the 70s. You know that, right?
Yeah. But that I like that. I like the fact that they rehashed an old story. I liked that. But because at the time, again, they were sitting there going, right, we want to get rid of Peter Parker. We want a new Spider-Man. How are we going to do it? Let's get a clone. This guy's going to be single. This guy's going to be taking over for Peter. And then Peter's going to live his life with MJ elsewhere. And then they backpedaled and went, yeah, we're not going to do that now.
Well, because the fans backlashed. That's why.
Well. Anyway, Clone Saga. I'm in the camp that I didn't care for it, and then I can keep going on a couple other stories like Sins Past. The less said about that, the better.
I've never read that one.
Sins Past is a story that was forced on J. Michael Straczynski's. J. Michael Straczynski's run on Spider-Man is fantastic, except for One More Day and Sins Past, which I'll mention One More Day in a little bit.
Oh god, One More Day.
But Sins Past, his whole run is brilliant. But Sins Past was something that he has said that was Marvel forced on him, which was a story where Spider-Man gets attacked by these 2 assassins, and they have the abilities of the Green Goblin. The reason they have the abilities of the Green Goblin is because they are the children of Norman Osborn. But the problem wasn't that they were who the father was. That's fine. The problem was who the mother was. So what happened was they retconned it that right before she died, Gwen Stacy had a one-night stand and got pregnant from Norman Osborn's children.
Did they unretcon that afterwards? Please say they did.
Marvel doesn't acknowledge it anymore, but it was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, why would she have a one-night stand with Norman Osborn?
Yeah, it's more retconning shit that Marvel tends to do.
That doesn't even make any sense.
I know it doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
The only way that would have happened is if he raped her and then got the kids afterwards, or basically sped up the process via some other weird technique. I can't even justify it. That's how stupid it is.
It is stupid, and it was consensual, so it's not rape. It's consensual.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense because Gwen Stacy would never consent anything with fucking Norman Osborn.
It's terrible. It's terrible Spider-Man storytelling, And then you got One More Day, which was, I'll make a deal to wipe out your marriage. Who the okay, so that was
Yeah,
just...
I want the one thing that you can't offer me. I don't want your soul. I want your marriage.
Yeah. So that was stupid.
That was
and
so
then,
painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, Spider-Man was hit and miss and all that. And then I will agree. I am in the camp that I do like Superior Spider-Man because it makes sense in the context of a Spider-Man story.
Yeah, it
Okay?
does, because and again, you get to see someone new take the mantle. I had no issue as well with him not being Spider-Man anymore afterwards, because it ran its course.
Yeah, I loved Superior Spider-Man, but stuff like Spider-Verse and all this, to me, keep Spider-Man grounded.
Yeah.
Send him into space every now and then, but keep him grounded for the most part.
Yeah.
That's how I view Spider-Man. He's not street level in terms of like Batman or Daredevil, but he has some fantastical villains, but he's not overly cosmic either, where he should be fighting Thanos and shit like that.
Yeah, it's as I said, it's one of those things that I don't get it. To me, it makes no sense why they went that route. Not at all.
Yeah, not at all. So, I don't know, but that's the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, very true. Jamie, what about you? What was your Did you have like a comic that you hated, or a storyline that you hated from a comic book that you just didn't like? You sat there and went, why?
I don't think the New 52 Harley Quinn exists, but
Oh, you don't like the fact that she looks like that she
a 16-year-old hooker? No.
Yeah.
I don't like that book either, thank God, because that book is... Let me explain something about that book. It's fucking popular, and I don't get it. To me, the real New 52 Harley Quinn is in Suicide Squad, not that portion of a fucking book.
I don't like the Suicide Squad Harley either. I think...
I do.
I don't like the fact she's got... I hope they took the fuck me off her fucking pants.
What?
They did not.
Oh, God. She's got fuck me on her pants.
They just... No, it's a... They just... I have some problems. I have some goddamn opinions, but I don't think I should get into them.
No. You can share the opinions. This is what this show's about. It's about sharing your opinions, and if people don't like it, they're going to fuck themselves. What's the opinion?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Harley, though she has canonically flirted her way through some things, she always had class, and I'm sorry for dropping this word because I don't believe in using it a lot, but the Joker would never go after a slut. The Joker would never go after someone who held themselves the way that new Harley Quinn holds herself. He would never put faith and trust in someone who does that. He wouldn't do it. Why? Because call the Joker what you will. Call him psychotic, call him just whatever, call
He's
him
a control
murderer.
freak.
He is a control freak, but he always had class. He was also never downright brutal for no reason. It was for no reason, but my point is he always found humor in it.
No, but there was always method to his madness as well. He
Exactly.
would do something because he knew it would like get to Batman, or he would always know that Batman would find
funny.
Yeah, or Batman would find a way out of it because he would always try and push Batman further than anyone else.
It wasn't just, I'm gonna do this because it's brutal, haha. Yeah. No, that's not the way it is. The problem I have with the new Harley Quinn is, why? Why is she walking around in lingerie? Why is she fucking Deadshot on a washing machine? Why is she suddenly doing all of these things to try and commit suicide? Why is she all of a sudden walking around with half of her hair dyed red and half of her hair dyed blue? Sorry. And that's another thing. Where the fuck did the blue come from? Her colors have always been black and red. Just like, fuck off, I don't care how minuscule it is.
I think she was a character that they kind of, when they rebooted, they got her wrong in all intents and purposes. Because when they introduced her in Batman, because she was never a part of the DC Comics universe like prior. She was introduced in Batman the Animated Series
as
kind of a sidekick for the Joker.
Yes. And everyone fell in love with her. And if you look back at that and look at what they've done with her now, it breaks my heart.
Yeah. She was a bit of a psycho herself, but she was also innocent in a sense. Yeah, but go on, mate.
I'll argue. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm leaving your show because I don't like it. No, I was just joking, Burhan. No, but I disagree, though. I highly disagree. And having read Suicide Squad, now I will agree, I hate the new Harley Quinn book. I think it's a dumb book and it serves no purpose. The main Harley Quinn book, right?
You want the single title, yeah.
The single title. I don't like that book at all. So, and maybe it's just because I don't like titles like that normally. Like, I have not made it a secret that I despise Deadpool, which I know I'm in the minority, but I don't give a fuck.
The thing is, Deadpool has, in the whole construct of what Deadpool is, it's fine to have that, because he's kind of the kooky guy with the sane people. Every time he does something stupid, everyone else is sitting there looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like having
But I don't like him, though.
People also take Deadpool out of context. They make Deadpool do a lot of things that Deadpool would never do. Like, a lot of people, I'm big in, the cosplay community, and the big thing with, like, Deadpools now is they'll just molest people. Literally molest people, and they'll say that it's in their character, when Deadpool wouldn't do anything because, newsflash, he was sexually harassed. He was raped.
Yeah.
Well,
he would never do anything like that.
My problem with Deadpool is he seems like he's a meathead character, pardon the term.
No, but like he's written that way.
Yeah, he's like a bro. He's like a bro character.
He was originally when he was made. What was his name? Who made him? The guy who can't fucking draw.
Rob Liefeld.
Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld created him, and he was he basically was a parody of what's that guy's name?
Deadpool of Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
Even their names, Deathstroke's real name is Slade Wilson.
Copying, he was copy and pasted. And
pretty much.
When he left, you had this meathead of a character that no one knew what to do with. So when the next writer got a hold of him, they started making him kooky. They started making him goofy. And he became a success because he was kind of the anti-Wolverine. Well, Wolverine and the Weapon X program, Wolverine was more, he forgot everything. He was very stern. He was kind of emo, but also kind of struggling with his own identity. Deadpool was the guy of, I forgot everything, but hey, fuck it. I've got my sanity at the door too. And would just act like a fucking nutcase. That's one of the reasons why I love the character. The problem is Harley Quinn is kooky just to be kooky.
Right.
Now, the Harley Quinn book is like, we'll break the fourth wall just to break the fourth wall, and there's no context.
There have been a few things that I like that they did with Harley Quinn in the New 52, and that's the one when she went up against Lobo, and Lobo held off and hit her, and she looks up and she said, she said, I just got out of some shit in my life, and no man will ever hit me again. And she blasts him the fuck away. And that is one thing that I loved about them, is that it's Harley recovering from the Joker's abuse.
And that's why she's... Oh, sorry.
They did that. I like that they did that. I also loved in the comic where she is alongside Black Canary, and she finds out that she's pregnant. And Black Canary's like, we can continue our fight. Just give me a minute. And Harley says, no.
Oh, that's in the Injustice books, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, the Injustice books, fucking hidden gem of DC.
Right.
You haven't read these comics.
I'm not going to do it. She's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to hurt you. I remember what it's like. And she reveals that her and the Joker had a daughter. And basically that she had to run. And she won't hurt Black Canary, and then it fast forward to when Black Canary's in the hospital and she just had the child, and Harley brings her this fucking muzzle for the kid, and she's like, why did you bring my child a muzzle? And she goes, hear me out, your powers are screaming and just spitting stuff all over the place like acid. She's like, when this kid gets old enough, you think you're gonna need this? And Black Canary's like, yeah, give me the muzzle. And that was one of my favorite parts, because that's Harley being Harley. That's Harley being the old Harley, the one that we love.
Well, I do love the fact that she also said, he's like, the arrow cave, that's kind of dumb. Why don't we just call it the quiver? And he's like, that's not a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't have too much. I watched the trailer for the Suicide Squad, I was actually more impressed with Harley Quinn's character than I thought I was going to be, but just for the fact that I thought they were going to completely fuck her up. I'm not. Her character seems pretty well intact. There are a few things I don't really think she would do. I'm waiting for the context of her licking the bars. I'm hoping it's not dirty as hell, but it's probably going to be.
Oh, it's going to be. They're basically fanboy
Which isn't
boners.
Harley.
Yeah.
I don't like the tattoos on her face or the fuck me tattoo above her pussy. I don't think that's really, I think that's in bad taste, and I think that's disgusting. Tattoos are fine, but that's taking it a bit far. And I don't think she would do that. Another thing is I don't approve of how it's leading up to how Harley was made, which is that the Joker was using, like, it looked like some sort of
electroshock
therapy on her just because he wanted to. I'm really confused. The trailer itself told nothing. Yeah. It was just them going, look, it's Harley, look, it's Harley. Oh, it's Will Smith, look, it's Harley.
Remember, the movie's still 13 months away.
I don't care how far away the movie was.
Well, it does matter because it's a teaser. A teaser isn't supposed to...
I don't fucking care. They rushed it for SDCC, and they shouldn't have rushed it at fucking all.
I didn't think it was rushed. I think it was a fine teaser trailer, and it did what it did.
It showed no story. It wasn't a teaser.
But nor did the Star Wars teaser, nor did the Batman v Superman teaser, nor did the Age of Ultron teaser.
The Batman Superman teaser was good.
It was good. I'm not saying it wasn't. The Batman v Superman, but it didn't explain story, like the second trailer did. Teasers aren't
have to if it's good.
Right, and the Suicide Squad didn't have to explain story.
Because it sucked.
Well, I think that their problem was DC has a bit of a problem when it comes to their movie franchises. And we can say that with the Green Lantern movie, they shoot their load.
That movie was shit.
They kind of, if you're looking at it like that, as Marvel kind of eases you in, apart from Age of Ultron where Marvel shot their load on that one, but DC tends to overexpose everything. Now, there has been murmurings going around that apparently they're going to be introducing Doomsday in the Batman vs Superman movie. I think this is a mistake. And the same mistake, I believe so, is because of the whole parallax scenario in Green Lantern. You take a major villain that's supposed to be badass, and then you turn him into a complete and utter pussy.
Okay, let me argue your point on Doomsday real quick, because here's the thing. If the thing with Doomsday is that people need to, that's stuck on is if you look at the original comic, that character was built up, right?
Yeah.
In the original Death of Superman story. I mean, for months, because at the end of each story, at the end of each comic, they would end each comic with Doomsday breaking a wall down, starting. And then they did this for months and months until he finally broke out. Which initiated the Death of Superman, right?
Yeah.
Now, the way they're going to... Now, consider this. A lot of people don't remember that they did this, but if you do Doomsday, particularly, you can make him a product of Earth technology, of being unlocking Zod genes, whatever.
Yeah, it's basically it's Kryptonian DNA that's going to be used to make him. You can tell by what he's doing with Zod.
Right. Now that's a plausible way of doing it because they did do it once successfully in other media. The Justice League cartoon.
But that's the thing. This is the difference. The cartoon series and also the DC cartoon movies tend to have better stories and better structure and also better pacing. With the DC movies, however, especially with the Green Lantern movie, and I disregard the first and second Nolan movies. The third one I thought was garbage, in my opinion.
The third one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Grandma Bane?
Yeah, and basically they rushed through everything. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And you can tell that Christian Bale did not give a fuck in that movie. He was just like, most of it was him trying to have strep throat because he was Batman.
Hello, sorry about that.
Throat cancer, Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I interject for one moment for something that I feel is very prevalent on my mind right now? Windows, right? When did you stop telling us you were gonna fucking update our computers?
Amen.
Oh shit!
Fucking asshole! I was talking to you guys, and then it just went, Windows is updating. Then I stood at the fucking parapet of doom, staring at my screen, just going 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. Like, no, fucking ask me. I know you think you're being like, oh, we're going to be economical. No, fucking ask me to update because I might possibly be doing something, you fucking idiots.
Well, let's go back to the whole thing.
Well, one thing about Windows, if there's any version of Windows that's great, it's XP.
98 second edition was the best version of Windows ever made, and it never needed to evolve past that.
I'll say 98 was good. I'll say I liked XP, and then I liked 7. That's it.
Not ME. I've never met a bloke in my life who likes ME.
Oh, I don't like ME, Vista. I didn't like 8. Fuck.
Oh, fucking 8. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's make a laptop into a mobile tablet.
Yeah, and it's like, no, there's a reason, and it cost me a fortune to get it. There's a reason that people like me track down the final copies of Windows 7. You know, so we could downgrade from 8, because I downgraded from 8 because it came on my laptop. And then you see this thing in the top right-hand corner that says, would you like to update to Windows 10? Hell no, bitches. You can fuck right off. Sorry, angry rants aside.
Oh, we've got angry about Suicide Squad trailer, so you're in good company.
I don't like it.
I know, I'm in the minority, but I don't give a fuck, so.
Jokers are wrong.
But let me again, that's, you know, this is just a teaser. That's what I'm arguing. So
Good point.
Hopefully we'll get something more fulfilling. I don't think we're going to see a trailer for a very, very long time because it's still 13 months out.
Do you know what? No, I completely agree with you, which is we can't technically digest or take any personal opinions or offense or, you know, fanboyism or love based entirely upon this because it's such early days. But
yeah,
I don't like the Joker.
Well, here's the weird thing about this trailer, and it's not anything with what's in it, but it's, when have you seen a trailer come out 13 months before? Like, I've seen, maybe a couple of years with movies that have been delayed.
This is the problem with modern movies, which is they, you know, studios and, you know, marketing, and we must put our brand out there and do this. And so they put these early trailers out. And more often than not, they're counterproductive.
So, I agree on the fact that they've kind of, you know, that is kind of counterproductive. And I do hope, and this is the thing, because I'm told by good friends of mine that I'm very negative when it comes to movies as a whole. If I see something and I don't like it, I automatically dismiss it. For those of you who don't know, I want to tell you a little story. I went to go and see the Green Lantern movie. Mm-hmm. And I went and saw it. I actually was like, most people were like, Ryan Reynolds, he's a fucking comedy act. He doesn't deserve to be Hal Jordan. The thing about the Green Lantern movie wasn't Ryan Reynolds. He wasn't the main problem with it. Even though he was the wrong actor for the role, I agree. Right? The main problem with the Green Lantern movie was story.
It was shite.
And they also, you know...
The problem with that movie is this, okay? There are things that they did do right, but the things that they did wrong were wrong. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean. They got Hal Jordan's origin straight, right? But and the stuff on Oa is probably the coolest stuff on there. The problem is they added all this stupid shit, like, you know, what is it? The way they did Hector Hammond or Parallax. It seems like they put too much in that movie. And it blew its load too early. They were
trying to create a whole universe in one movie, and you can't do that.
No. And that's what I think is DC's doing right now, especially with what they're doing with Batman v Superman, and, you know, Man of Steel was a good opening, you know, for what it was, and then you move into, you know, this next movie, which is going to open it, and then I think Suicide Squad is going to open it towards the villains. So, I mean, I think they're doing it better than you think they are, Burhan. I get where you're coming from because DC has had some bad luck with movies like, Green Lantern, Batman and Robin, Catwoman, stuff like that, right?
I
Superman
think
Returns, for
DC's
example.
biggest problem right now is they're trying too hard and they're overstretching because they are trying to catch up with the Marvel Studios.
I don't think that. Well, then let's be fair though. If they did the exact thing Marvel would do, what would you hear people bitching about? Copying, right? So if they can't win either way. They can't win or lose either way. And Marvel,
So there's
if
no
it,
denying that Batman versus Superman, even though I really don't want to see it because, want to see it because it's one of my favorite graphic novels ever, and they
right.
better fucking do it justice. Um, they're trying to basically go, hey, look at them, they got the Avengers. We need that shit. So now they're trying to, drastically cram together the Justice League, and it's right or wrong what the Marvel Studio did with how they crafted the Avengers. They did it the right way.
But we don't know. But that's the thing, though. We don't really know how they're going to execute that film. I'll explain something to you real quick. What I think is the difference here is, say what you will about Iron Man 2, right? What you can say about that movie, though, is the way they introduced Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow,
Yeah.
right?
Give you that.
Okay. From what I understand, Wonder Woman's role is going to be something similar, or in terms of time, as to what Black Widow was. And then as for like Aquaman and the Flash, those are just going to be brief cameos, right? Or maybe post-credit scenes or something like that. So it's not going to be overly cramped. And then you have the Suicide Squad movie, which is going to kind of expand the worlds of the DC villains. And then after that, you have the Wonder Woman standalone movie. Then you have Justice League, which, I think that's a fairly good, sizable amount to lead up to Justice League. So
Yeah.
So that's my argument for it.
No, it's a good argument. Since you put it like that, yeah, I kind of get it. But at the same time, I just think I feel that with DC versus Marvel, and I'm not a fanboy of Marvel, by the way.
Okay.
I just feel that they're kind of playing catch up and looking at that studio and thinking, ooh.
The thing people don't understand, though, when it comes to Marvel, Joss Whedon made kind of like a great presentation out of a clusterfuck. When the initial Iron Man movie was made, they tried to tie it into the Hulk. When the Hulk movie was made, they tried to tie that in. And then it only just sort of kind of came together when Captain America, when the Thor was happening. And then, he tied it all together and gave all these guys kind
properly
of a joint...
tied it up in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, well, he tied it up in the Avengers movie, and then Winter Soldier, they kind of took the ball and ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the difference here. With the Age of Ultron movie, they had nothing to tie into that, so they rushed everything throughout the whole movie. And apparently, from what I've been told by several fans, is Whedon wanted to kill Hawkeye. That's why Marvel kind of made him kill Quicksilver. And for those of you who haven't seen it, spoilers!
Spoilers! Wanker.
Yeah, I owe David Tennant. And,
I heard someone say, whoa.
Yeah, so what they did is they
Hold
purposely...
on, Jamie, you haven't seen Age of Ultron?
I haven't seen any of the Phase 2 Marvel movies because all of my friends shoved them in my face to the point where I had to Tumblr savior pretty much every single one of them to be able to scroll on my fucking dash without seeing anything for literally all I would see when I scrolled on my dash, literally we're talking 45 minutes of scrolling, and all it was Bucky. And I'm like, okay, guys, I don't really want to see these fucking movies anymore. And then...
Well, you're not missing much.
I saw Iron Man 3, which was pathetic, and then...
People haven't seen Age of Ultron yet, so no spoilers!
So, no, I know all the spoilers, it's fine. So, I haven't seen any of the Phase 2 Marvel movies because my friends shoved them in my face, and they're like, oh my god, but it's so good!
I hate when people shove stuff in my face. What?
Oh. To the point
I
of,
like pie.
Literally, that's all they talked about, that's all they posted about and everything, and I'm like, I'm done, I don't want to see it anymore.
Okay,
I'm in the minority. The only film from Phase 2 that I thought was a brilliant film was Winter Soldier. Other than that, I know I'm in the fucking minority with Guardians of the Galaxy, I hate that movie. I'm sorry, but I hate that movie. And
I don't mind it for what it is. It's as long as it's like
I love that movie.
it's quirky, it's funny. It reminds me of a trauma film with a higher budget. Oh, and PG because there's no blood and sex stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just it didn't. There's a lot of plot holes and it's just not. I don't know. But here's the thing with that movie is that last year everyone overhyped the fuck out of it.
Yeah,
and
did.
Jamie, I'm sure that's one of the movies they shoved in your face the most.
Yeah, I hated Guardians of the... I haven't even seen it, and I fucking hate Guardians of the Galaxy because friends of mine unfriended friends because they didn't want to see it. You have no idea the wars that started between, like, my, well, now friends that I don't communicate with because it's like, I'm like, I don't really care about seeing Guardians of the Galaxy. It hasn't really interested me. And that's all I said. I'm like, the trailer didn't really interest me and I don't even know much about it from the comics.
Yeah.
People were flat out saying, well, then you're not a true fucking fan of Marvel. You don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And literally cussing people out over not wanting to see Guardians of the Galaxy.
You know what? Can I address an issue of something that pisses me off real quick?
Go for it.
She brought up a good point. Marvel fanboys that don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Marvel fans, like it doesn't have to be fanboys. It's just fandom in general.
Hey, hang on, kids. I'm technically a Marvel fanboy, but I play nice.
Dave.
Okay. Let me clarify.
Let Magus make his point. Go on, Magus.
Okay, well, not guys like you, because I know you have read actual Marvel comics, right?
Yeah.
Tons of Marvel comics, right?
Oh, dude, that's my fucking religion.
Oh no! I meant what's his face? The other dude, I forgot. I don't
Dave.
know your name yet. Dave, you've read tons of Marvel comics, right?
You watch your face all the time.
Okay, Jamie, and I think I know what you're talking about. We're talking about these idiots that go into Marvel movies. They never read a fucking comic book in their fucking life. They watch these movies. They watch the movies only. They watch Agents of Shield, excuse me. And then, and they go out. Go out and they think they're fucking experts. They knock on on all the Fox Marvel films, like Fantastic Four, and that's a whole other discussion. Right. And X-Men blindly. They knock on all DC shit. They think the Marvel films are these godly fucking films, but yet they have never read Demon in a Bottle. They've never read Walt Simons's Thor. They've never read, Mark Grenwald's Cap or John Byrne's Cap or fucking Brubaker's Cap. These fucking idiots have never touched a fucking comic in their life, and they think they're experts. And boy, sometimes I have to fucking go in and shut them the fuck up.
Yeah.
And also, outside of that argument, which people seem to forget, which is, it's people like us who love comics and have read them, and we're invested in.
The thing is, though, the comic book movies
necessarily adapt that to the cinematic screen. You may have to make concessions. People don't understand that.
I hate when someone says concessions. You don't. You've got a well-rounded story. You might have to cut a few things, but you can easily adapt a story to work on the big screen.
Things is concessions, and when I say concessions, I mean you have to take the said product that people are completely invested in and find a way to, drill it down and work it into cinematic land, because comic book form and cinematic land are two completely different mediums.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, but
they don't work.
If you want to make a movie of a comic book or of a comic book series, and you find yourself having to rewrite the goddamn plot or having to rewrite fucking bullshit, don't fucking make a movie.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have to take out important things, if you have to rewrite a character's backstory, Harley Quinn, for instance, just one of the many things where they're having to rewrite her backstory.
But the problem here is the problem here is with studios, they're making they buy a product or a franchise and they think they can we're gonna make loads of money off this, but then they dumb it down to fucking 12A rating.
Jamie, do you remember Starfire? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's my point, which is.
Red Hood and the Outlaws is a good comic book.
I'm not defending
but
them.
Their portrayal of Starfire in that is disgusting.
Yeah, but I'm not defending them, but it's the problem, which is you got a bunch of fucking blokes in suits up the top of the fucking chain.
We want to direct more
Okay.
teenagers. Teenagers are horny, aren't they? Let's get these characters and make them more horny.
And they,
My fiance. Hold on,
everything
my
they
fiance just
see.
told me something. My fiance just told me. Did you know that they wrote out Wasp entirely in the new Ant-Man movie?
Yeah, no, I know that, and it.
Yeah,
They wrote
because
her out entirely.
But I'm
Do you
not- I'm
want to
still-
know how many
By
buildings
the
I
way,
want to
Jake,
set on
I'm
fire
not
right now?
defending studios. You know that, right?
yeah, but the thing is that I'm annoyed about anyway is the fact that Ant-Man, like the original Ant-Man, had him as old. I'm not a fan of that.
Hold on, let me.
Well, it doesn't
Can I
matter,
go
it's
back
that
to something
Wasp.
real quick?
Can I go
It's
back
that
to what I was
Wasp-
gonna
Whoa, whoa,
say?
whoa, 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 one at a time. One at a
One at a
time.
time.
Megas.
People, the problem here is got a bunch of fucking idiots in suits who think they know the market and they buy a profitable franchise to, sell and project on the market. And more often than not, like the Batman series, the new ones, at least, apart from the first one because it's my favorite Batman movie, are brilliant. But they make concessions. They dumb it down and they take out all the, how shall I say this? They round out all the edges, if that makes sense.
So Megas, what you were saying?
Okay, so I want to go back to what I was saying. What I was initially saying was I'm just saying there's a bunch of ignorant people that
Oh.
think they're experts on these films by just watching the movies, and that's what I think Jamie and I were getting at, right?
Yeah,
No, actually, the people who were abusing people because of Guardians of the Galaxy, they had read some of the comics. Like, they had read the comics.
Oh.
Some of them had read the comics, some of them hadn't. But my point was just that they were saying, oh, well, if you don't want to see this movie, well, then fuck you, you're not a real Marvel fan, and literally,
Yeah.
over it.
Well, that's who exactly I'm talking about. These idiots.
But that's
these
thing.
these idiots who have a bug up their ass about, you're not going to treat it with true respect. Then why did you go to fucking watch it? Oh, so you could soundbite afterward.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to these movies anyway, I think with the Marvel movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy, this is based on the new comic that they've done. I'm fine with that. I do not like what they're doing currently with the Inhumans and the X-Men trading sides, because they're trying to make the Inhumans the new X-Men.
Yep.
And they're trying to kind of separate the X-Men from the pack. Like, they've killed off Wolverine and now have made him old.
Here's that's why I'm not a big Marvel fan these days, because in the comics, the X-Men was what was keeping Marvel afloat for decades, even when they went into fucking bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And
I did actually, one of my dissertations that I did when I was doing my graphic design degree was actually on the X-Men, talking about the story and how it had there was so much subtext to it. You talk
and
about...
they were actually bought out, weren't they?
Yeah.
They, after bankruptcy, they were actually bought out based solely on the X-Men franchise.
Yeah.
Yep. The X-Men is what kept them fucking afloat. And then if you want to go further back, the Fantastic Four. There would be no modern Marvel universe without the Fantastic Four. Granted, yes, I'm well aware that Captain America, Namor, and the original robotics Human Torch originated in the 30s, but those characters, as much as I love Captain America, I can recognize it was the Fantastic Four that brought the modern Marvel universe into what it is today.
Yeah, and that's what I agree with you on that. It's
who would have thought that comics were so political?
I think the problem is now they're like, well, we could take a bunch of B-list characters and we can make them stars. So
everyone's scraping, and I think this goes back to the original X-Men movie, which I like. I'm not slagging it off. Which is movie studios who have no investment in said product or character. Are just running around just going, we need a superhero movie! And I pretty much think, because it's such a well-executed, because I love Bryan Singer, such a well-executed movie, that's half the problem, which is studios who don't, comes back to what I said, bunch of yes-men who don't appreciate, accept, or understand said subject matter, just scramble around and just go, kids like this, let's make a fucking movie out of it. It doesn't work like that.
Well, it's like Okay, so I'm gonna quote someone that I watch Collider Movie Talk, which I like a lot. I like the guys on there. One of my favorite guys. He's not my favorite, but one of my guys. And I know you've actually met this dude, Burhan. And I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to a movie he recently directed that just came out. John Schnepp.
Yes. John Schnepp. I did an interview with him, and it was the death of Superman Lives.
He pretty cool dude.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Very tall. Made me look like a freaking. Yeah, I look like a hobbit trying to find my ring in front of this guy.
But I'll say this about Schnepp though: he knows his shit when it comes to comics.
Yeah, he
and
does. I had a huge discussion with him about it, and that he actually researched every aspect of the death of Superman Lives, every aspect of that movie, and he wanted to build it all together and put it together. And he's a big geek. He does these AMC show as well.
Oh no, it's not AMC. It's Collider now.
Oh, Collider now.
Oh, so what happened was, real quick, I'll give you back in May. Campia, who I liked the most, him and Snap are my favorites. Campia had a falling out with AMC, right?
Yeah.
So he announced in late June that he was resigning from AMC. So what ended up happening was, during that time, he made a deal with Collider, but AMC realized that they were faltering, so he was able to get Snap and all the guys from AMC, and he moved them to Collider, with AMC still sponsoring the show, but it's on Collider.
Ah.
So now you can't find AMC Movie Talk on AMC Movie Talk. It's now Collider Movie Talk, and he's been doing episodes since last Monday. So there's a lot of stuff they've been doing.
But you know, the thing when it comes to that though as well, we've had like a conversation or two about, you know, his directing repertoire, but also about comics, and he's a huge fan of like Burton's work, especially with Batman and stuff like that. And he was a fan about the Kevin Smith script, and he put in a hell of a lot of work in terms of putting that together. I think it's out on digital download if you want to get it. I believe they are going to be doing some physical releases, so you just have to order it from the site. I'll put a link at the bottom for you guys if you want to check it out.
Please do, sir, because
Kevin Smith was the one who originally talked about it, and I was like, as soon as I met him at the MCM Comic Con convention, I was like, ah! Literally, like that was me screaming, and he was like, "You okay?" I'm like, ah! But it was amazing. He really knows his stuff, which is great. I've actually talked to him a couple of times on Twitter as well, and emailed him a couple. The thing though, when it comes to these movies, and I think you kind of both hit the nail on the head on it. With Marvel, and they're looking at executives saying, let's see what we can do with this. You know, we've hit gold with Iron Man, but what people don't understand is Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark.
Yeah.
He gave his representation of Tony Stark, which was spot on. He's the Stark who was basically an asshole, the guy that didn't give a fuck about anybody else. He's the self-marketer, the entrepreneur, in a sense, the guy who'd market himself. That's Stark.
Mm-hmm.
If you're basically familiar with the other properties, Guardians of the Galaxy, again, these characters are represented by the actors who are playing them.
Right.
Now Marvel are trying to go into, like, when they go to Phase 4, they're hoping to have a new Captain America put in place. They're not going by the idea of what they used to do with the Batman movies, where just have a new actor playing Batman. Instead, they're like, okay, what we can do is we can give it to someone else. Mm-hmm. So in the comics,
they're going to go into Civil War.
Yeah,
that's the story arc they're going into next, which means that Bucky is going to be Cap.
I just don't like the idea of having a full movie on Civil War when it's going to take 3 movies to actually hash out the bloody story.
It doesn't feel like they built up to Civil War.
No.
And that's the problem I have.
Yeah. They're supposed to do the singular movies that build up to the event movie. It's kind of like a serialized format. Because you need the respective single movies to build up to the event movie. But instead, the event movies don't exist.
Isn't it? Which is they streamline everything and drill it down and just go, we know best, we're blokes in suits. And it's like, well, you don't really, because you've never read a bloody comic in your life.
Well, let's go back to what I was going to say, what Schnepp said. Schnepp actually said that the way he views these movies, whether good or bad, and this is how I try to view them, even though I'm critical of Marvel films, but I'm critical of them not because they're not faithful to the source material, but because they are just the same old shit over and over, and that they're poorly made films. But Schnepp says that the way he views them is that they are essentially Elseworld tales.
Yes. No, I agree.
Oh.
Because that's what it is. And it's one of the reasons why I describe anything that's non-canon, like the Arkham Knight franchise. Because me and Jamie had a long-winded discussion about the Scarecrow in the Arkham Knight franchise, and how she feels he's a different character in comparison to how he's been written. But I said, well, it's an Elseworld character. It's not the Scarecrow we all know and hate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way that they tend to do it. But the problem is, I don't mind creative license, but you still need the essence of what makes that character great. With Downey and Iron Man, he made the character great because he had the essence of the character there. He knew who Tony Stark was. He played Tony Stark. The same goes for Cap. But once you start moving the characters forward onto other actors, and the thing is, it's about cost. Marvel are doing this because it's cheaper. They're going to be paying through the nose for guys like Chris Evans. They're going to be paying through the nose for guys like Robert Downey Jr. So what you're going to do? You're going to hand it over to other people instead of handing it over to actors who could play the role, because they're sitting there going, well, that actor solidified the role. If we put something else in, people are not going to respect it as much. So let's give Sam Wilson, the role of Iron Man, or let's pass Cap on to someone else. Let's pass someone else for these other characters.
Let's skip over the corners.
Yeah, and the problem is, there's only so far you can go with that, because eventually you're going to have to reboot and rehash again, which you've built all this up, and then you've got to kill it off again. What they're going to do? Go, okay, what we're going to do now is are they going to end up doing a Secret War and Battle World, and then having other actors as the characters play the ultimate versions? They're kind of writing themselves into a corner, if that makes sense. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's the here's the thing with the Marvel films too, that they're not building up very well, right? Yeah. And that's why I think DC is, argue with me all you want, but I think that's where DC's is getting it already, because look at what they're doing with why Batman wants to fight Superman in the next film, because they're building upon that first movie, right?
I do like that. I have to admit with you, I do like the fact that Superman is one of Batman's motivations of putting the cowl back on, because he's kind of left it, but now he's going back to it.
And it's not like some, because the other thing too, my buddy and I were laughing about, was Marvel likes to rely on the plot device way too much, and that's mind control. They love mind control.
Yeah, or the MacGuffin. They like to actually look at the MacGuffin a bit too much as well. Like, let's take an object and have that object be the main object behind the film, like the Infinity Gem, the Tesseract. In Ultron's case, they had the supercomputer AI. And the funny thing about Age of Ultron, you could actually sum up one word or one character who made the Age of Ultron happen, and it was all because Tony Stark was lazy. That was it. That's the whole method behind Age of Ultron. The MacGuffin for Age of Ultron was Tony Stark was lazy. That's why it happened. That's why the world almost ended, because Tony Stark was lazy.
Go ahead.
And then he ends up doing it again with Vision, and everyone's like, we don't fucking trust you, and then automatically everybody else trusts him. That's the kind of thing that annoys me. It's where it becomes, they use another trait of acceptance. So every time a character does something, everyone else is like, yeah, we're fine with that. What? Well, he accepts it, so you need to accept it.
And it doesn't seem like DC's going that route. It seems like natural plot progression. Like,
I don't like the fact they've announced every movie at the same time. And I think the problem with this is, if Batman vs Superman has a great, and I think if you left it till Batman and Superman in this movie, didn't have Wonder Woman in it, didn't have Aquaman in this, or Cyborg, and just left it to Batman and Superman to do their thing, I think it would be a better movie. The thing,
I don't know, but go ahead.
The thing about Man of Steel that irked me the most was if you saw the trailer showed story and progression from Clark being a kid to his father not wanting him to be, shown or revealed because he was afraid of what was going to happen to him. To all this other stuff that was going on, and it showed story progression. It showed exposition. It showed progression from a child to an adult, and everything that he learned and everything that he was taught. Yes, it overexposed the movie, but then when we watched the movie, they cut all that shit out. They fucking Uncle Ben's Pa Kent.
Okay.
They then focused a lot more on the destructive scenes, like the punchy scenes. And I think that's where they kind of went wrong, because you had the essence of a great story that you could have told, and hopefully if I see a director's cut, it's going to have all that shit in there.
I disagree with you. I'll explain why I disagree with you on that. The Pa Kent element has always been the thing with the Kents, with Mom Pa Kent, is in some. Again, this is where we get into that tricky aspect of DC interpretations. That's the tricky part about DC compared to Marvel. This is not an insult on Marvel. This is just a differentiation of it. Marvel characters, despite their huge continuity problems, they're mostly static when it comes to origins and things like that, right?
Yeah, it's always the same origin. All the times, yeah.
Okay. Whereas DC, they've always change certain elements. So, like, for example, you go to Action Comics #1 and you read Superman's origin. The key element is there. He gets launched, Krypton explodes, that's it, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize this about Action #1, though. He actually gets taken to an orphanage, and he lives in the orphanage and then goes to school and becomes a reporter. Okay? Yeah. So that was changed. Elements like the Kents and Smallville and all that were added on much later. And again, even the Kents, some continuity, they're alive. Some continuity, Pa dies or Ma dies or whatever, right? So yeah. I think with Superman, with Pa Kent, you can get away with him dying.
You can, but the thing is, you have to do it so it's not under his control. Because he's a man that can always cope in any situation. He's the ultimate superhero. And the problem with the way he died in Man of Steel, as opposed to the way he usually died, which was a heart attack, Superman, Clark, cannot save his father from a heart attack. That's why he feels worthless, because he can't save him from that. What they did in Man of Steel was his dad just went, nope, carries away by a fucking fucking hurricane, and you're like,
but
really?
It's not that simple. It is not that simple, because
no, but his dad tried not to have him reveal himself. I get it, but they didn't set up the situation as well as they should have. Does that make sense?
They built it upon stuff that he has said earlier, though, and it makes sense for him to. It makes sense for him to act in that way, and if you think about it on a higher level too, the Kents in Man of Steel, particularly Pa Kent. If you look at Pa Kent, he shows Superman in a way that being a hero is self-sacrifice. This is something that someone pointed out. He runs back to free a child and free the dog, right? And when he gets all fucked up, he not only he shows Clark that you have to give up something in that sense.
Yeah,
because remember in the scene in context, they were arguing. Remember?
But there's also the scene with him and Lois where he says, "I couldn't save him," which is, to me, it was like, you could have saved him if you chose to use your powers. You chose not to, so you let him die. Do you know what I mean? And
right, but
there's that whole morality skew that they have with it. Like when he destroys the city with Zod, and obviously there's loads of damage and people are going to die, and then next minute he snaps Zod's neck to save a family of 4. It's like, okay, I get it, but at the same level, come on, seriously?
Well, let's look at some stuff outside of the film real quick, and I'll argue this with you too. The destruction with Zod, that fight scene. You can argue, like, let's look at Avengers. People argue, well, there's a lot of destruction, but the Avengers went and saved people, which they did in that movie, right? However, number 2, he still doesn't know the extent of his powers. He's still learning. He barely learned how to fly, right? So when you get to the destruction with Zod, that in itself is something that can be used to be explored in future movies. Whereas you look at let me bring up something in Age of Ultron, Burhan, real quick.
Go on.
Remember the Tony Stark and the Hulkbuster and Hulk fight, right?
Yeah.
Was that not pretty destructive?
No, because again, it was one of those things where I didn't think everyone in context was like, "Oh, it works." For me, it didn't work. I understand what they were trying to do. I just sat there and I was like, "Yeah," but it was
no. But I'm not asking you if it worked. I agree. I thought it was a shitty scene, but was there not a lot of destruction in that scene, though?
There was, and it wasn't. There was no point to it.
Okay, so let's look at this context. Okay, to me it seems like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, is going to add heavy repercussions from Superman barely, trying to do the right thing, but he didn't exactly do the right thing. Whereas Age of Ultron is going to ignore the destructions of, which every Marvel movie does. Wasn't like London attacked in Thor 2? Wasn't like a whole oil? I mean, come on. It's totally ignored. Whereas in Batman v Superman, my argument is, yes, there was a lot of fucking destruction, but it's going to be an important plot device.
Yeah, the thing is, I always see, when they try to link these movies together and then they don't associate them, like with the Iron Man situation, where the fuck was S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Okay.
Where the fuck were the Avengers? Do you know what I mean? And he was like, I can do this on my own. And then he jumps in and does the whole secret agent bullshit. I just sat there and was like, no. No. And then they played all the other fucking stupid aspects of it. And I felt, if you're going to do a Marvel movie, you've got to understand that you have to work within the context of the universe that you've set up.
And they don't. They don't work in that context.
No, they don't. And I agree with you. And I think with the DC situation, the one advantage they have is because they haven't set the universe up yet.
Right.
Man of Steel is not the setup point. Batman vs. Superman is. Man of Steel is going to be the lead-in to that, which is what it was. It's leading into this. So I'm giving that... I will have to give that a pass because the lead-in is going to be Batman vs. Superman. That's going to be the main story arc here. That's going to be the one that will show us whether or not this is going to work.
I mean, judging from that trailer, it looks like they're really, really pushing what happened. Like, you see all the repercussions of what happened. You see the Zod body.
Yeah.
You see fucking congressional hearings.
No, that's what I said. I sat there and I was like,
oh, yeah.
It looks like a very well done story, but the problem is, it's fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, I'm like, you did the same thing with Man of Steel, and you fucked me over. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where it went to that thing, and I went, okay, I will let you know. I'm gonna give you a pass for this because I want to see Batman vs Superman. Because if you actually go back after the Man of Steel first aired, like in the cinema, I did a video talking about how Batman vs Superman should be the next logical step. And guess what they did? They did it. So I don't know if someone's been watching my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. But it was one of those things where I wanted this to happen. But
I was watching Collider Heroes. Oh, I'm sorry, Burhan.
No, go for it, mate.
I was watching Collider Heroes, which is another, which is a carryover from AMC Movie Talk. Yeah. And it has Campia, Schnapp, and a guest host. And it had this movie director who directed a movie I like really a lot and can relate to called Free Enterprise. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yes.
Free Enterprise, for those that don't know, is to me the most accurate representation of the modern geek. What does that mean? Okay, so you
basically it's about over branding, over basically they're marketing everything geeky, and it's become pop culture.
Well, no, it's not only that, but what made Free Enterprise really interesting was when you watch stuff like The Big Bang Theory and stuff, it's these awkward, introverts and stuff. Whereas Free Enterprise were about guys like me that were, mind you, this was made in the 90s, that were in their, mid, their early 30s to their early to mid 30s. And they were essentially guys who were super geeks about Star Trek, Star Wars, science fiction, comic books, all that stuff. But the difference was they were not introverted. They actually had normal relationships, but had relationship issues like everyone else does.
Yeah, it's basically with people. That's exactly, I'm naturally, as people would call me, an extrovert. I would go out, and the only time I get introverted is when I have my anxiety issues, and that's it. And in the end, that is what we are, but it's become, because there's a perception of it, we've got to see a lot more of it. I'm not saying there are people who are introverts, there are a lot of people who are, but because it's become pop culture, it's become geek chic, so to speak, I think is the term for it, everyone is doing it. And because everyone is doing it, the community is growing a hell of a lot more. So you've got those who are part of the community and those who have, as you said, just seen the movies.
Yeah, yeah. But that dude, the guy who directed it, he said something that film struck him on that trailer struck him on a deeper intellectual level as opposed to something like a Marvel film does. Which I think here's going to be the other advantage you got to consider about this movie: different screenwriter. Different screenwriter.
Well, David Goyer, he's one of those guys where I think he's a fan of his own work. He's the guy who directed Blade Trinity, people. So,
Goyer did not write this one. Well, he did. He wrote a draft, but they completely rewrote it.
Yeah, I think that was more because Ben Affleck said he didn't like it.
Ben Affleck... Oh, go ahead.
Apparently, there was a huge issue that nearly caused Ben Affleck walking off set.
Well, here's the thing. The Ben Affleck being cast as Batman has probably brought people associated with Ben Affleck because the guy who rewrote the script to Batman v Superman and is writing Justice League is Chris Terrio, who wrote Argo. So that was obviously, and there's no shadow of a doubt about it. If Ben Affleck was not casted as Batman, that most likely would not have happened. It might have happened, but I think, this is a guy that wrote a film that Ben Affleck wrote and directed. So, and Chris Terrio won the Academy Award for Argo. So, in some ways, yeah, it's the same director, but it looks like it's like from this trailer, it looks like it's going to be a structurally different movie than Man of Steel. So, but I do like Goyer though. Just saying, not all his stuff. Blade Trinity is shit.
It was I basically defended that in an episode of the Untitled Movie Show, which is defending bad movies, and I talked about the fact that it was just a Ryan Reynolds vehicle because the whole emphasis on this was to try and make him and Jessica Biel look great and de-emphasize Wesley Snipes. The problem was it turned the whole movie into a pile of shit because the writing was bad, the villain was bad, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and apparently the movie was supposed to be Daybreakers.
Oh.
Yeah, so the script for Daybreakers was supposed to be Blade Trinity, but that never happened. And the thing I think with Goya is he's a fan for his own work. He needs someone to kind of rein him in, and I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad Affleck just went, no, I can't. I can see that what you're trying to do, but I don't like it. Because I think he does have sense, and I think they're trying to stick a lot to the Mark Miller. The Dark Knight Returns novels, and I like that idea. I like a darker, grittier Batman, and I like the fact Batman is a lot older in this movie because we don't have to go through the whole bullshit origin story. I don't like the fact that they're going in a different direction with Spider-Man, that he's going to be a lot younger. I don't like that. I want to see more of a grown-up Pete. I want to see more of a Pete who understands his place in society but is still struggling to find who he is. Because that's exactly what we want to see. And I think in terms of these characters is they keep trying to make them young so that they can build them for when they get older. I want to see an older established character try and find their way, and with Batman we're going to get to see that. But I think, as I said, it's one of those things where Trey looks spot on, but in terms of character and definition we've got to see when the movie comes out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I will say, in terms of Lex, I'm actually a bit more comfortable with the way Lex is now than I was. I still think they missed the boat not having Cranston as Lex, because I think he would have been a more intellectual, more savvy, more seasoned Lex Luthor than what we're getting with what's his name, the guy, the Michael
Eisenberg,
Jesse Eisenberg. He does play Dick well because he played Mark Zuckerberg in the Facebook movie. But at the same time, he's one of those guys where I think he's very one-dimensional. I don't see him as a very unique character actor, but he may surprise me with Lex.
With Lex, you need Dick, and I think that guy screams Dick.
Yeah, no, definitely. He screams that I'm better than you.
He may not excel in other roles, but I'll be honest. Have you seen Adventureland? Is pretty good. And that's a very passive role for him. That's not a dick role. He plays like the odd man. In fact, you know who's the dick in that movie? Is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
So, but I want to go back to what you said about Spider-Man. I'm in agreement with you. Dave said something interesting. He said his favorite run is McFarlane, right?
I think Dave's disappeared. Yeah, no, he did.
Is Jamie still here?
Jamie, you there? Jamie.
Yes, I'm here. I just don't want to interrupt anything. I'm just listening.
You can interrupt. It's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, his favourite one's McFarlane. Mine is the Clone Saga. Jamie, what's your favourite Spider-Man?
Embarrassingly enough, I haven't seen a lot of Spider-Man. Well, I'm arachnophobic, so I I've only seen the movies, and I don't know too much about the comic verse. Actually, I have comprehension issues, so I actually have problems reading comics in general, like comics and manga. I have really hard problems like reading them and understanding them just from a learning disability. But I have to say, if I went with a Spider-Man, he wasn't my favorite Spider-Man, but I think my favorite Spider-Man movie was the second Spider-Man movie from the original like trilogy with Doc Ock in it, because Doc Ock was my favorite, and I really love the actor who plays Doc Ock. But I've never really cared for Spider-Man too much.
Okay.
It was just the villain that I liked.
Doc Ock. That's actually a really good movie, I think.
I think he really played Doc Ock really well.
That movie was really good. It's still hailed as one of the best superhero movies ever made. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But Burhan, I was gonna say for me, it's actually Roger Stern with David Mitchell and then McFarlane, because they're all linked together. And you know why I think we all like those style of run, and even to your Clone Saga, because Clone Saga happened after McFarlane. You know.
No,
okay.
I agree.
You know why we're all attracted to it? Because to me, I love Pete when he's in college or after he's out of college. And Roger Stern's run is when he's still in college. So it's an older Pete, but he's in college.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have the Roger Stern Omnibus, which is amazing. And Roger Stern really, really did a lot of cool stuff. Like, he's heralded for writing some of the best Spider-Man stories. He created the Hobgoblin,
Yeah.
He wrote the first Black Suit stories. He wrote Amazing Spider-Man 229 to 230, which he took what is normally a gimmick in the superhero comic and made it into something more. What does that mean? A gimmick is sometimes you'll have another villain from a rogues gallery come into a unrelated heroes. They're still set in the same universe, and usually it's just kind of like filler, right?
Yeah.
What he did was he took the Juggernaut from the X-Men and made this story where Spider-Man, and it's heralded as one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told, and for a reason, where Spider-Man in 229 and 230, he fights the Juggernaut, and it shows that he basically cannot stop him, and that he has to he's basically in desperation. And it shows Pete at the edge of what he can do with his powers, at the end of his limits.
And that's the thing, and I think as well, another story that mirrors it was the other storyline, where you had Spider-Man literally nearly killed. He had his eye taken out, he was basically on his deathbed, and then this thing, he joins with the other, and then basically just goes completely and utterly nuts and gets these new powers. I love that story because it showed change. It showed substantial change, and it pretty much did the same thing as what the Juggernaut story did. What would happen if he spent everything? And what if he had nothing else left? And what if he knew he was going to die and he found peace with it?
Interesting. I'll have to read that one. I never read it. I've never read it. By the way, I don't want to talk. We've talked a lot of comics, but can I ask you a question that was asked in the Magus X1 group?
Yeah, go for it.
Mike Desiderio, he just posted this. He asked a good question, and this is actually something for people who do YouTube videos. This is unrelated to comics. Would it be a sin to review a game I'm only 2/3 through? The game is too tough to beat, and I refuse to look up how to beat it. I'm in a weird spot. LOL. What do you think of that?
I don't think it would be a sin to review it. Basically, at the beginning of your review or whatever, just give the disclaimer, kind of like I do if I review games that I've watched walkthroughs of. I always give the disclaimer, I haven't physically played it, so I can't speak for how the game handles, but I'm reviewing the story, the characters, and everything else. Basically, you can say, I can speak for this game up to this certain part. This is why I haven't beat it. I don't want to look up a walkthrough, but here's my review of it thus far, and that's the way I would do it. I'd still give a review, yeah. Just give a disclaimer at the beginning that you haven't finished it, you're kind of stuck, and you don't want to quote quote cheat. Though looking up a walkthrough is not cheating. If whoever it is is listening to this, looking up a walkthrough is not cheating. Okay, that's just facts. That has to happen sometimes. That's just a thing.
Okay. I agree with you on that. I really do agree with you. I think the only time you shouldn't, I don't think if you play a game for like 30 minutes an hour, you should not review it in that case. But if you're 2/3 way into it, I think that's fair enough. I'll admit, I did a review on a game that I couldn't finish because it was so bad, but I played a good chunk of it, and that was Alien Colonial Marines.
Right.
Yeah.
I think even if you're like an hour into it, what you can do is give a first impressions video, not like review it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're like 30 minutes to an hour into it, be like, hey, I can't review the game fully, but this is my first impression, and you can do it from there,
Yeah. First impressions, I used to do those all the time, and I completely forgot about them until you brought them up. And yeah, I'm in total agreement with that. I just, I don't think you can do a full review, of course, when you're an hour or half an hour into it. But a first impressions is always good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. For me, I always, when I do a review, I will review a game on the basis of the mechanics, of the playability, of the way it looks, and I'm not a frame guy. I don't, the bit wars, the frame wars, they can go to hell. I look at the gameplay, the style, the graphics, basically in terms of if it looks nice, and also I'll look if it's playable, and also how many hours I can go through the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's on the full completion, other times it's not. And the reason being is when you're reviewing a game, and I guarantee you no one who, like Pro Jared or any of those guys who do tons of reviews, they put about 4 or 5 reviews out a week, right? These guys are not going to play through the full game. They're just going to see how it handles. And that's the only thing you can do. And that's kind of the thing where people just don't get it. And it's for the person who basically asked it, all I say to him is, do your review as long as you've got as much information as you possibly have on the game. If you don't feel that you've got enough, then step back and play a little bit more. And this is talking from someone who's reviewed games with Namco, Bandai, and Activision, so...
I think you're right. I agree with you.
And but saying that, guys, we're going to be ending the show now. So what I'm going to do is I want to do kind of a little goodbye to everybody. The reason why people don't understand this, I'm going on a journey. And I recently put up a GoFundMe page for a documentary that I'm shooting because I'm being made homeless. Sooner than expected. I expected it to happen in 3 weeks' time. It's happening this Saturday. I've been trying my best to kind of make sure that real life worked out for me. It didn't very well. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter about it because it is what it is. But I'm basically not going to be taking my equipment with me to do it. But I am going to be taking my mobile. I'm taking my iPhone as a way to kind of document my journey and document myself as I go on this journey. The idea is to kind of lead me into a certain place and go from the UK, travel around Europe a little bit, and eventually end up in LA, in Los Angeles, California, where I'm going to try and make that my new home. I'm doing this despite the kind of the system that I'm living. A lot of people are saying that I'm running away. Others are saying I'm doing it because I want to go on a holiday or want to escape something, or as escapism, whatever we say it is. At the end of the day, I hope you respect me enough to understand the reason why I'm doing it. So you will see updates on my YouTube channel. You will see new videos coming on my channel, but they're not going to be as pristine and greatly produced as the ones that you've seen, as you've seen on there, Magus.
They're going to be like my videos.
Pretty much.
Which is fine.
I'm probably going to see if I can get a selfie stick, but we'll see if it can fit in my vast luggage. At the end of the day, I'm going to be struggling. I'm going to be struggling a lot, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the road for me. It just means that I need to start again, reboot in the sense of DC Comics and Marvel, and move forward.
You had your crisis.
Exactly, and it's going to be hard. As for the minions, they are with their mum. They are going to be well taken care of. In the position that I'm in currently, I can't do anything to assist them. And most people who are going to sit there, you can call me any name in the world you want. I already sit there and think of myself as a bad father by the fact that I feel like I'm abandoning them, even though, you know. So, there you go. If you want to make me feel like shit, I make myself feel like shit every day. For those people who don't know as well, I'm the kind of person who tortures himself. You can ask these three here, because they've been in the part of my whole thing. If I'm not happy about something, I will make myself sick, you know, on the face. I've failed a lot in terms of my own failings. I had, you know, if you've been a friend of mine at my production company, you know that I had the Silent Hill pilot that, because of what happened with Konami, kind of never came to pass. I'm not saying it's not ever going to come to pass, but currently it's on the hiatus because I've lost the whatever rights I had to use those names and properties. What you don't know is I funded that. I basically was raising the money door to door. I was going from house to house, raising the funds. I raised $5,000, and guess where that money went? And this is for all you people out there who want to use money and take money that's not yours. I gave it back. I gave it back to each and every person. I tracked them down from the receipts that I had, and I gave them back their money because I always believe in being integral and having integrity. I did a video recently talking about the YouTube community because I have integrity. I always try to stick up for everybody else and be the guy of principle, and I never try to be a guy that e-begs or takes from people, you know, or a dude who sets up a Patreon and never does anything with it. That's the thing about this. This is going to be done with or without my equipment, because I believe the documentary needs to be shown, and I'm showing it because I'm not doing it because I want to be famous or because I want to be so respected. I'm doing it because I need to highlight something. Over 75% of people of homelessness in the UK is happening because of issues over the current regime. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying that we are becoming a society of heartless souls that instead of facing a problem, we decide we want to toss it aside. Things get tough. Things get rough. And I had to make some tough decisions. One was to leave the radio shows that I'm currently on because I can no longer do them. There is no way without an internet connection and a Skype connection and something to charge my iPhone. I could technically do it on my iPhone, but I would need to charge the battery on this phone constantly, which is not something I'm going to have access to. I'm unfairly putting myself in danger, maybe? Who knows? But I'm hopefully that this is going to be a fresh start, and this is going to be something that it's going to be very intriguing. So hopefully to each and every one of you that you do stay with me. For those that I've gained, for the new friends that I've gained and new subs that I've gained, thanks to that, keep staying tuned to youtube.com/thenerdgenius, and I hope you follow me on my journey. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know how much time I'm going to be using, but hopefully it's not going to be too long that I come back and that I'll be sitting here shooting videos from the comfort of my own home in front of a camera, talking about certain things and doing vlogs and doing more of British reviews and doing shows like this again with my good friend Dave, hopefully maybe even a comic show with Magus, or doing another I Got Gameplay with Jamie. But I do want to say this: every single person that we have had on Burhan and the Boy, I've never been prouder of. I've also never been proud of Dave Wade, who has fought tooth and nail over his own anxieties to do these shows. When me and Dave first met, we hated each other. Because I'm a complete leftist. Dave's a complete rightist. Dave hated professional wrestling. I took offense to that, being a former pro wrestler myself. And it's funny, you know, the fact that we've become such close friends, to the fact we've even called each other family. Dave talks to my mum regularly. And, you know, he knows my girlfriend to the point that he has his own nickname for her. It's a thing where people need to understand when it comes to relationships, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, don't abandon someone because their beliefs are not, you know, the same as yours. Don't abandon someone because they're going through rough times and you feel so entitled, or you don't want to be involved in it because you feel that they're just a downer. I've seen it all, and I may be a whinging bastard. I may be a crazy motherfucker, as most people put it. I may even be the guy who people will look down on because I'm apparently trying to make a name for myself off of other people's backs. But I'm always I'm always the guy who would always try and beat his situation and escalate and be something better. I went from being a dumb kid who couldn't string two words together to being an adult who's rather proficient in speaking, who can, who made something of himself. I'm the only person in my family, well, I'm going to be the second person in my family now. My brother hopefully is going to be doing his degree, to get a degree. I'm so proud of my 2-1. And the fact that most people don't even know what the hell I went through to get my degree, because at that time I was homeless as well. I was thrown out of my home. And it's weird where people, when you're down, a lot of people tend to just tread on you. Do you know what I mean? They do tend to like sit there and look down on you like you're insignificant because you're not as well off as they are, or you're not as good as they are, or they think you're running away from something. When in the end, all people sometimes want is friendship. They want a hug. They want to be told that what they're doing is the right thing, or at least shown some support. And I think that's where we're all going wrong. And I thank God to Jamie for actually showing me this. Guys like Markiplier, I would consider him, I don't like his content, but I consider him an amazing human being. One of the best human beings I've ever seen on YouTube, on anything, on the planet, A man who physically makes himself sick because he can't help people. And you got to commend that. I think if we all took stock from what he does and started respecting and loving one another, maybe we would actually be in a better position. But, So, from now, Dave's going to be continuing Burhan and the Boy Without Me. His new co-host is going to be announced to date. And I just want to say to each and every person here in this room, to everybody out there who watches this show and who watches my channel, that I respect you, I love you, and thank you for the constant hours of pleasure you have given me, telling me how you love my stuff, how you love what we do, how you picked me up at a Comic-Con line saying, hey, you're Michael Burhan, and me looking at going, what the fuck just happened? It's great. And I worship and I appreciate every moment that everyone has done, taking their time to even listen to me rant and rave or discuss or, even just talk about stuff, because it means a lot to me. And I just want you to know, I want to reiterate the words of Justin Juwario Carmichael when he says, you are not stupid. That the person that you are is the most important person in the world. Everything you do matters. Everything in your life matters, and you matter. Because in the end, you are not alone. You are not fighting your battles alone, and you're not fighting your struggles alone, because I'm a message away. And I'm there by face, I'm there by spirit, and I am there by mind and body and soul. And if anybody ever needs me, or if there's something that's going on and I find out about it, I will comment on it. And I am so sorry that for those of you who are suffering, that I can't help you at the moment. But please don't give up. Because if I'm not giving up and I'm out on the streets by Saturday, I don't expect any one of you to give up. As Walt Disney would say, keep moving forward. So now let's go to Magus. Magus, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, well, holy fuck, I don't know how to follow that. Fuck. Well, let me say that real quick. I met you March 2014, April 2014.
Yeah.
You had no idea I existed.
Yeah, you basically, you came out and Johnny put you as one of the admins in the Happy Console Gamer forum, and I was like, who the fuck is this dude?
Yeah. And Johnny Millennium and many other people, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, and I it's just something they tell me all the time, is I basically created the modern day YouTube gaming community. They say that I did, with the collection videos and shit like that. And I don't, I don't care that I did, but that's what they say. And Burhan didn't know who I was. Xander knew who I was because I was on All Gen Gamers or some crap.
Yeah, he knew you, and he was like, "That's Magus. That's Johnny's guy." And I was like, "Who?" But then I started watching your videos, and I started actually familiarizing myself with who you are. And also talking to you too at the same time, because it was like speaking with you. I was sitting there, I was like, "This guy's kind of cool." Because we went from having one of the admins there who was completely. He was a nice guy, but he kind of took things a bit too personally.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But the thing was when I met you and Xander, I didn't know what you guys were about. Xander had been following me since he heard about. I had no idea. So I met you guys, and I made 2 excellent fucking friends. And I could say that the last couple months, without your support and Xander's support, and a guy by the name of Jeremy McDougall's support, that we created a movement in YouTube. And it's because of you guys. I mean, I made my first video, but you guys said what I said so much fucking better. Because all I did was I said swing dicks and shit like that in the video. And you guys took that, what I said when it was just swinging dicks, to saying it so much more eloquently and educationally and all that shit better than I ever could. And it's it's a lot of things of what you guys have done and what you're inspiring me to do, Burhan. You're a good guy, and some of the stuff you've done recently, I say you've got fucking balls. I respect what you do, and I'll still be able to talk to you, but I'm gonna miss you, man.
Yeah, I think with me was I've always been a guy of principle. I get that from my mum. Always. My mum was the person. I remember I used to get bullied a lot at school. My mum was always the person who would go in and she would literally nearly kill the teachers because they weren't doing anything. Because teachers wouldn't believe the fact that I was getting bullied. They would be like, "Oh, he starts it," because obviously he must start it by the fact that so many people go after him. And it still carries on. Real life, it happens a lot. The thing is, people don't understand the internet is still a very horrible place because you have so much jealousy going on. I've lost friends by the droves. I mean, people that I talk to in real life have backed away from me because they're worried of stuff that I say. I don't have a censor to my mouth. And a lot of people have said to me, "Well, you need to learn to play politics." I don't do politics. I understand it. I don't do it. Because I'm not the kind of guy that will sit there and say, "Okay, I'm going to kiss ass to get a movie studio role, or I'm going to do this." I always believe that you make your own opportunities. If Sly Stallone could write an amazing movie like Rocky, when he was told that he didn't have the right look, or because he talked and walked funny, he didn't have the right style to be a Hollywood leading man, and changed people's perceptions, then anyone can. You don't have to be a fucking model to basically live your dreams. You don't have to have 10 grand's worth of YouTube equipment if you want to start a small channel and make videos. The thing that you need to do is just start to put the work in. I've had my channel for probably like 6 years, Magus, and I'm only on 383 subs. I don't care. I love every person that subbed me.
It's the same thing with me. And this is weird. It's gonna sound a little weird. When I started, I blew up in those early days, right? And at one point I had 7,000 subs. Now I have 5,000. But it's funny because I haven't grown since really exponentially since 2010, right? And even at that, not all 5,000 people watch my stuff. So here's the deal with that. But there's always been this little group of people, and I know who they are. This little group of people, not maybe a little bit bigger than little, but there's a group of people that always watch my stuff, comment, and I know that they're going to comment on every fucking video. And I've gained some new people from those Happy Console Gaming forums, from being an admin, such as BioPhoenix and Bossum Burf and guys like that I've met, which are fucking cool. But there's always been that little group that stuck with me since the beginning. And if those were the only guys that watched my videos, and my views were only, my views rank at least into the 400s, but my views were 20, and it was just those guys, I'm fucking grateful for that.
Yeah. And no, I agree with you. You know, I've gained a lot of my followers from guys that Dave sent my way from doing Burhan and the Boy. You know, a lot of people recognise me because of Dave and Dave's shout out, and you know, but a lot of people recognise me from you giving me a shout out. And a lot, you know, people don't understand that shout outs are a great thing. If you don't shout out the little guys, if you don't sit there and tell people that you don't have to shout out everyone, just shout out the channels that you like. And if you like someone, not the person personally, if you like what they do, that's how this person is going to get their first 100 subs from you. If you are a bigger YouTuber than someone else who's a smaller channel, I shout out Jamie all the time. I shout out Dave, and Dave's a bigger channel than me. I shout out Magus. I shout out, like when I did the YouTube of the week, I shouted out Tag, who's got a amazing channel. I shouted out Game Taft, who, apart from a differing opinion that we've had recently on my newest video, I shout him out all the time. And the one thing I was trying to highlight when I did this video was the community has gone to hell. And a lot of people, oh, there's no community, it's just a clique. There is a community there. It's not just the same cliquey amount of people that like each other's videos. There is a community. You just have to speak their language. You just got to talk to people.
Can I call someone out?
Yeah, go for
real
it.
Quick. I mean, not in a nice way.
No, go for it. It's the last show, so fuck it.
Okay. That the console snob dude.
Yeah.
Okay. There's this bitch called the console snob that went off on me and Burhan on Burhan's latest video, which I won't bring up the topic because it's pretty controversial in itself. And I have my reasons for remaining quiet on it, which will be revealed soon. But here's the fucking deal. This console snob is basically a guy who is the antithesis of everything that I believe in. I come from an era where we weren't about making money. We were in an era when and again, I've changed my opinion on this dude, which Burhan doesn't agree with me on. We attacked, who was it? Irate Gamer back in those days. I didn't attack him, but a lot of people did because he was getting money off of content, right?
He was getting money off of copying someone. He wasn't really doing. He wasn't doing what he was doing. He was doing what someone else was doing, and trying to cash in on it, even like mimicking their episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can argue on some points with that, but I'm not. But the point is now a lot of the the YouTube community has changed so fucking much that it's a lot of it is about making money, right? Yeah. And this console snob went after me and Burhan, and he's part of the problem because you look at his videos and he wants to make a fucking buck. He doesn't care about video games. He doesn't care about little guys like us. Now I haven't seen Jamie's channel. Jamie, what's your channel? Well, I'm curious about it.
My channel is Shimeji. I do a lot of video game reviews. I need to get back into the swing of things, but my channel isn't limited. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. I have gotten a lot of flack from I stopped filming at the end of last year because I went through a lot of personal stuff. But I got a lot of flack because I was reviewing, and I still do, like I said, I review video games that I watch walkthroughs of. But I say I don't speak for handling. I don't speak for any of that stuff, and I never once say that I played these games. If I play the games, I'll tell you, hey, I've played like a few minutes of it, but I watched a walkthrough of it. I have major comprehension issues, and so I have to watch a walkthrough first. And people were basically giving me all sorts of shit, saying that I don't have the right to review games, I don't have the right to talk about the games, and saying that I don't even have a right to talk about the story if I don't.
No, you have the fucking right.
Bullshit.
Don't get me started on that. No. That you know what? You show me some of these motherfuckers, I'll do a fucking rant on this shit because you know if you like games, who cares how you fucking play? Everyone has a fucking play style. This shit pisses me off. I'm going to go into a fucking rant, Burhan. I know you need to end the show, but I'm going to go into a fucking rant. Everyone has the fucking right to play games. It doesn't matter if you use a walkthrough or if or if you fucking grind or you don't grind or you use the fucking Game Genie. The only time I'm against cheating is multiplayer games, okay? But if you use a Game Genie on a single player game or however the fuck you play it, if you watch everyone has the fucking right to play. So to these stupid ass fucks who are probably little bitch ass ass kissers to big YouTubers, that can go fucking suck a dick, they don't fucking have the right to say that. So do what you makes me laugh.
I agree with you because I had someone comment on a Minecraft video I did with the kids. I had to delete it because the kids did the video. and the person started making fun of them because they didn't know how to build this. And my kids, when they do a video for my channel, it's usually a video that they want to do because they watch YouTubers. They watch guys like Diamond Minecart. They watch the smaller, the bigger channels, but they watch the kids' channels, like the Skylander channels and stuff, the Skylander family that they did, which used to be Skylander Girl and Skylander Boy. And someone just really took the piss out of them, and I went, dude, these are kids. They are playing a game. They just want to do a YouTube video because they want to be like the people they've watched. And it broke my heart that I had to delete the video because I was so uncomfortable with this asinine dickweed.
Put it fucking back up before you leave. Tell that guy to go fucking.
I deleted it because it was literally it was a Minecraft video that was streamed onto the channel, and I got rid of it. But then I got them to do Mario 3D World, and they struggled, but I made sure they did it, and I played with them, and they enjoyed it, and they played through. But the amount of bullshit that I have to do with some of their videos because people sit there and go, you can't play. My kids are probably better gamers, far better gamers than I am. They're going to be better gamers. My nephew Rion can whoop my ass on Smash Bros.
Damn.
My daughters can whoop my ass on Smash Bros. And I've always sat there. My daughter Hina actually beat me on a race of Mario Kart recently, which I was literally nearly in tears because these girls always used to remain at 12. My daughter Hina's now got into first place on 50cc, and if she keeps playing, she's going to get better. And this is what the thing is: if you keep playing something, if you keep working on something, you're going to get better. If Jamie reviews game, like basically Let's Plays, it doesn't mean she doesn't know how to game. It means she's learning from it from a different way than we perceive it. I remember when people used to call kids with ADD retards. I remember when people used to call kids with a different way of learning stupid. I used to be called stupid, believe it or not. People call me smart and intelligent and articulate. I used to be called very stupid because I was very slow. I hate now that we've sat there and talked shit about one another and call people names because that makes us feel better. I had a friend of mine who used to do this a lot. He would come down to my house just specifically to make himself feel better by telling me how much his life is better than mine.
Jesus.
Yeah, I dumped his ass in terms
Good.
of... I just stopped talking to... I told him, mate... And this is the funny thing for those people who just unfriend people and don't talk to them. I talk to people and say, hey, this is the reason me and you are done. And then we mutually part, and then we go on our separate ways. He didn't mutually part. He started cussing me, but I let him cuss me, and I just walked away. But in the end, that's the way that you deal with things. Not everyone has the same learning curve as you. Just because you've mastered a game doesn't mean I'm going to master it. Because you pick up a pad and you actually play the game doesn't mean Jamie isn't entitled to an opinion. And that's where the problem lies, and that's where I think the community has gone to shit. Because nobody praises anyone anymore. It's, you're shit because I'm better than you. Okay, fair enough, you're better than me. Congratulations. What do you get out of that? An ego boost? Does that make me your friend? No. I'll use a prime example. I had a guy, my video I just did, Magus. I just did a video.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
this
I know what
video
you're talking about.
Got a lot of attention, and I'm not going to basically say it on air. If you want to check it out, go to youtube.com/thenerdgenius. It's got a disclaimer on the video. I gave everyone ample warning. The guy basically came to the group that I posted this video in and called me a fucking bastard arsehole. I'll tell you what he said, and
he did react to you after all? I didn't know that.
No. This is someone else who's a fan of his, and he came into a group that I was a part of. Now, he basically, he saw the video. He didn't even watch the video first. He reacted before he saw it, and he said, what the fuck, man? This person is one of the best YouTubers ever. So, what the fuck, man? Are you retarded? Like the man, you did the right thing by suggesting you don't watch a vid because I'm not. I agree with Alan on one move and unsubscribe, which means he's not subscribed. This guy's not subscribing to me, right?
Right.
Which in my opinion, I was like, okay. So what I did was I said, thank you. I never took a huge shot at this person or used colourful language, but thank you for commenting. He then came back and went, well, you had that in a mature way. And I was like, I'm not a bad guy. Watch the video and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then he started talking to me about my picture and Mr. Iwata and the fact that, you know, he felt bad about the whole Iwata situation. And bam, guy's now a friend on my friends list and he subscribed to my channel.
Damn.
And all it is not, I'm not trying to toot my own horn in this, but it's, people are very quick to react and say shit about someone else and be arrogant about something. Playing a game or being able, there's only a few people who've ever been able to play a game and make money off of playing a game. Only a few in competitions. YouTube has kind of, and Twitch has stretched that out now so that so many people can actually do this. Some channels are the best subscribed channels aren't really channels that play well. Some are document channels. Some are channels that talk about stories. Gaming Historian is another one. Never seen him play a game. You just watch him talk about a history of a game.
Or my channel.
Or your channel, of course, as well. And again, another person made a comment about your video saying that it was badly done or badly edited. And this is the thing. And I pointed out, I used like basically film science on the guy and said, hey, actually, what he's using is a technique is called this, and it's this, and this, and this. It's all about the fact that you've got to stop looking at how much a person's video value is or how much the production value is, and just look at the substance. And I think one of those channels that I can sit there, well, about all three of them that are in front of me, Jamie's has substance. She knows her shit. She did a panel on Resident Evil. She held an episode of I Got Gameplay, which is one of my proudest moments, by the way, on her own, discussing Resident Evil. Check it out. It was a great episode. It had over 1,000 views, and it's one of my favourite episodes because I watched my little, this girl that I kind of put into the fold grow and blossom like the flower she is.
I'm gonna watch her channel now. Yeah. Watch your channel.
Magus.
I actually did. I did the reviews on the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Revelations 2. I broke down the trailer for it, and DC Douglas, the voice actor of Albert Wesker, actually retweeted them on his own. He found them on his own. So.
That's badass. Congrats. I'm definitely checking out your channel and probably add it because you're welcome. Probably add it to my shout out stuff. So.
Thank you very much. I hope to be actually filming soon. I'm hanging up posters tonight in my space so I can get back to filming.
Good, because I want to see you keep. I want to see you keep going because you're progressing and progressing as progressing. Don't let anything hinder you. And Magus in his channel, I basically, after finding out about Tony, I realized why he was so good and why people respected him so much, because he had an opinion on something and he wasn't afraid to state his mind and state his opinion.
It got me in trouble a lot of time.
And that's the thing. And sometimes you can, people think, oh, he's an asshole. But that's his charm. That's who he is, because he will push you until you either come up with a good rebuttal and shoot him down, or until you basically sit there and go, okay, you win. Because he's competitive in terms of the way his opinion is, and he never censors himself. And I don't expect him to. Dave is another guy who, me and Xander have pointed out, his channel's a community channel. Dave would always talk about things he loved. He would talk about controversial topics at times as well. And, me and Dave were talking about a video he got in trouble with when he was talking about pickup videos and the fact he hates pickup videos.
Shit.
And not all of them, but just, some. And if you go to youtube.com/LawnBoysPost1975, you can see there's a collective of people. And, another thing, I want to give a big shout out to everyone on Retro Unlim who have embraced me. They've treated me like family. I haven't been seen as the same thing with Snob. I don't see eye to eye with everyone all the time. I don't see eye to eye with Snob all the time. But we are a collective of individuals who are unique. Everyone has their own style. Everyone has their own way of doing things. But the one thing I've always said to each and every one of you out there is never stop telling stories. Never stop talking about yourselves. Never stop expressing yourselves, because in the end, once you stop expressing yourself, that's the point where things will just be diluted. It's the point where things become mechanic. When everyone starts doing news and talking about news instead of actually expressing their opinion on the news. Or talking about stories about you and your friends. The one thing that I love the most about the Happy Console Gamer channel is the fact that Rob and Johnny always discussed about their lives, about their time as best friends, about their relationship, about themselves growing up. And that's where I think things are changing in terms of YouTube. We're seeing a lot more of kind of the robotic IGN type videos and we're not seeing enough of the storytellers anymore, and it's a shame because YouTube, no matter what people say about money, it's about working together and communicating. The reason why my channel is not monetized, the reason why I don't earn money from it, is because I do not want to hinder what the channel is. And yes, it's got pretty good production value. Yes, it's really good for what it does. But I've never ever tried to make myself out to be a guy who wants to do this for a living. YouTube for me is not a living; it's a hobby.
I got into it accidentally. I've told you this story before.
Not so much.
I never told you the story of how I got into YouTube.
No.
Okay, so I've had Magus X1 since 06. I just have been making videos since 08, right? But I had an account like everyone else just to make stuff. And then about December, I started watching a lot of these old guys. And these are old YouTube gaming guys. Guys that are no longer around. Guys like Jedi 1 and things like that, right? And Jedi 1 was, to me, the first guy that I saw that made a break from the Angry Game Review. What does that mean? When I started at the end of what I call the Angry Game Review, which means that basically every gaming YouTube channel at the time was a angry video game nerd clone.
Yeah.
No,
I had the similar experience until I watched HCG. That's how I found Johnny and Rob. Because everyone was just a fucking clone of the angry video game nerd, and I couldn't really digest it. I was like, okay, this person's angry. This person's angry. This person's ranting about something. This person's angry. Oh wait, what's this? And it does get taxing emotionally. It's taxing because everyone's angry, or everyone's fake angry.
Exactly. Yeah, everyone was. It was a lot of and here's the funny thing was, and then I started to do. I'm a big Chrono Trigger fan, so I discovered that this website called Chrono Compendium did a translation, a new translation of Chrono Trigger, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll patch it and all that. So I emulated, patched it, and they were proclaiming it's the best translation ever. Well, what it was a fucking translation, a direct translation from English to Japanese that was not cleaned up.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It was in English. It was barely fucking legible. It was it just wasn't a good translation. It just was not a good translation. And I was like, there's got to be an outlet where I can say this. So the very first Magus video was a commentary on this. What was odd about that Magus video, though, it wasn't fuck this and, what I'm known for today, right? It's not, it was basically like, hi, I'm Magus, and I'm going to do a Chrono Trigger review. And it was just a very nice, nervous dude doing this fucking deconstruction of this translation, right? Boy, the Chrono Compendium liked that shit. They came at me, pitched forks and torches, and my very first video, they were pissed. So, what does that mean? They came at me so bad that I was like, why did I do this? But then I was like, oh, I'll do a video game review. So I did a video game review of the SNES version of Killer Instinct. And this guy that I had been watching that was kind of like Jedi, named JQJ the Man, he caught my video and he was my first subscriber. And I still talk to this guy to this day. And he watched my stuff, and then I rose up to like 10 subscribers.
Yeah.
Then I did a follow-up to the Chrono Trigger, and I realized they started liking it. And as time went on, the biggest turning point for me in that was when JQJ the Man did a shout-out for me. People like, Magus, you were the first that did shout-outs. No, JQJ did shout-outs way before I did, and that's why I started doing it. Because he introduced me to guys that I'm still friends with today. And that's how the little community started. And then shortly after that, maybe a couple months later, I met Johnny Millennium. And I shouted him out. And that's how we met. He's told you that story.
Yeah, then he talks about it rather candidly. And he did it also on the podcast for your channel. The thing that people don't get is the smaller channels, that's how they thrive. That's how they succeed. It's when the community shouts them out, and people go, "Oh, it's not a community." When you're sitting there in your own little bubble with your own channel, with your own forums, yeah, it's not a community because you're all about yourself. When it's being selfless, there's a difference. And I know for a fact, like, you know, I know you gave a bit of hate to the console snob, and he's kind of, when he talks about on my video, he's playing a character, and he's unsubbed me as well because of the video. But I know the console snob as a person, and he's not who he makes himself out to be.
Oh, the console snob?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude's a fucking...
We've had like road trips together, and he's a nice guy. You know, even though he pretends not to be, he is a nice guy. I remember once I got sick on the way back from Play Expo, and he gave me like water, and he gave me like a bag to like throw up in, because I had like food poisoning. And you know, he's never, in terms, he can sit there and he can call me whatever he wants. I've heard name calling that he says. He calls me a attention whore. He
doesn't like me at all.
He says that I like to do jokes, haha, I'm comedy or whatever. But I know that's not the real guy. That's not the guy I'm friends with. And he can sit there and bravado me all he wants, but in the end, I know who he is. And the same goes for any other person on this channel. I know there's a ton of people who sat there and swore at me and called me names, and even had one guy go, "Hey, I'm not even going to watch your video because you're full of shit. You're using Alpha to give you a name." You can say what you like. Without watching the video, you don't know what you're talking about. And for those who did watch the video and took it as a way as I'm attacking someone, I'm not. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just sitting there pointing out a situation that needed to be addressed because the community has gone to hell. And I'm a big fan of the YouTube community. I love the YouTube community. There's still some great channels out there. And I will try and give everyone a bit of a shout out before I leave this Saturday and tell you guys how amazing your channels are, because everybody out there is great. And, you know, for the end of it, for the last time now, let's kind of end the show. So now...
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right, Magus. No worries. For now, for Burhan and the boy, I'm Michael Burhan. He's Dave Wade. For Magus, for Jamie Styles, it's good final time. Goodbye from him. And goodbye from him. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for watching this rather small show. Well, as Dave would call it, a really big shoe. Thanks again.